Chapter 145. Su Ming stood in the distance. He had originally left to rest in Tranquil Tribe's temporary lodgings with Fong Mu, but on the way there, he was attracted by the sudden boom. The sound seemed to have come from the tower. When he saw the people of Tranquil Tribe rushing over in shock, Fong Mu became even more anxious and uneasy, which was why he followed them back. He saw the tower turning into ashes, and he also saw the woman in the ruins. He saw her looking at him with a complicated gaze, and he also saw her walking towards him one step at a time. Su Ming wore a black mask on his face. Other people could only see his eyes through the black robe. They could not see his expression. As Songlan walked towards him, the people of Tranquil Tribe beside Su Ming all greeted her respectfully until she stood before him. Su Ming's gaze was calm as he looked at the petite woman before him. She was very beautiful, and no signs of age could be seen on her face, causing others to be unable to tell her age. "Auntie," Fong Mu quickly spoke respectfully beside Su Ming. Songlan did not seem to have heard him. She looked at Su Ming with a complicated look on her face, as if she wanted to say something, but did not. That strange look on her face made Su Ming wary. "Brother Amo, can you tell me your real name?" After a long while, Songlan whispered softly. There was a hint of weakness in her voice. Su Ming frowned slightly, but did not speak. "If one day you remember something, you can come to Freezing Sky Clan and look for me." Songlan lowered her head and bowed slightly towards Su Ming. She cast him a deep look once again, and there was no longer a complicated look in her eyes. There was only a hint of pity. She turned around and left. "Sir, what do you mean?" Su Ming was still frowning. He could not understand the woman's strange words, but for some unknown reason, a hint of emptiness rose in his heart. Songlan did not turn her head back. She disappeared into the distance. She did not answer Su Ming's question. Perhaps even she was still lost in this question. Fong Mu hesitated for a moment before he whispered, "Senior Mo, she's my aunt. Her name is Fong Songlan. She successfully challenged the chains of Han Mountain 10 years ago and became a disciple of Freezing Sky Clan." Su Ming nodded and stared at the spot where Songlan had disappeared into the distance. Uncertainty appeared on his face, hidden under the mask. Tranquil Tribe was huge. Even if Su Ming was only at the top of a mountain, he could still feel the vastness of Tranquil Tribe. Fong Mu had originally intended to bring Su Ming around Tranquil Tribe to familiarize himself with the place, but due to Songlan's appearance, an inexplicable frustration rose in Su Ming's heart. He went straight back to the lodgings assigned to him by Tranquil Tribe and fell in his silence alone. Fong Mu knew that Su Ming's personality was strange and that he loved peace and quiet. Once he had someone bring him food and some fruits, he took his leave respectfully. The room was not big, and it was built against the mountain. It was not humid, and occasionally a cool breeze would blow past, causing people to feel refreshed. However, Su Ming was sitting on the stone bed and ignored all of this. Songlan's pitiful gaze appeared in his head. That gaze made Su Ming puzzled, and at the same time, he became increasingly agitated. He could not control his gloominess. He had a feeling that there were some things Songlan did not say. "When Fong Shun and I were in the pavilion, this woman should have been there as well. I don't know what happened after I left, but the pavilion collapsed and the woman was injured. Her expression just now didn't seem to be fake, and with her status, there's no need for her to put on an act before me." What did she mean by that? When I remember something one day and go to Freezing Sky Clan to look for her, what will I remember? Su Ming could not understand it, no matter how hard he thought about it. His eyes sparkled as he fell into a pensive silence. Remember something? If I turn that sentence around, it means that I've forgotten something. That's why I said I'll remember something. But what did I forget? Su Ming closed his eyes. He should not have been affected by just one sentence. But even he could not understand why, when he heard those words and saw the pitiful gaze on him, he felt an inexplicable sense of irritation. It was as if when he wanted to shout, he suddenly found that he had become a mute and could not make a sound. Su Ming closed his eyes and carefully recalled his memories. His memories started from when he was still a child, and they were still rather indistinct. After a long while, he opened his eyes. "You're just trying to be mysterious." Su Ming laughed coldly. He might still be agitated, but he forced himself to stop thinking about it. Instead, he slowly immersed himself in meditation and slowly calmed himself down. Time passed by, and soon it was night. Due to the fog outside, Tranquil East Tribe was no longer as lively as it was in the past. Instead, it was quiet. That night, Su Ming tried to enter a meditative state many times, but only when the sun was about to rise did he manage to calm down. He managed to calm down the agitation caused by Song Lan's words. However, even if he managed to calm down, what happened that day was like a seed that was buried deep in Su Ming's heart. The sun should have been shining brightly the next morning, but due to the thick fog, even the sunlight was blocked, causing the world to be shrouded in fog and darkness. Fortunately, the mountains of Tranquil East Tribe had their own unique setup. As long as one did not look too far away from the mountain, they could still see things clearly. Fong Mu arrived early in the morning. He brought Su Ming to a message from his father. He allowed Su Ming to become a guest of Tranquil East Tribe and enjoy all the benefits of a guest of Tranquil East Tribe. At the same time, he could also join the expedition to the tunnel of Han Mountain. "Senior Mo, you don't actually need to enter the tunnel of Han Mountain. I heard that it's very dangerous. There aren't many people from the 3 tribes who enter. Most of them are guests who have been recruited. Besides, there's always a fine line between life and death. The 3 tribes might seem to be in harmony, but in truth, there's a lot of infighting going on in the dark. It's especially so in the hidden grounds of Han Mountain." Fong Mu guided Su Ming to the top of the mountain of Tranquil East Tribe. His father and the other leaders of the tribe were waiting there to send the next batch of people into the hidden grounds of Han Mountain. Every single time the fog rises in the morning and the tunnel of Han Mountain is activated, a lot of people die. "Senior, you can tell me what herbs you need. I'll ask my father to send someone to get them." Fong Mu brought Su Ming to the top of the mountain as he spoke in a low voice. There was anxiety on his face. His concern might be related to himself, but it was still rare. A gentle look appeared in Su Ming's eyes. The boy before him had gained his affection during the past 4 years. "It's fine. I'll just be careful when I go in." Su Ming's voice was no longer aloof. He lifted his hand and patted Fong Mu's head, just like how his elder would often pat his head when he was young. Fong Mu was momentarily stunned by Su Ming's actions. It was clear that Su Ming's aloofness had left too deep of an impression on him over the years. His actions made him slightly uncomfortable. Once he heard Su Ming's answer, he quickly forgot about it and sighed softly. "Since you've already made up your mind, then I won't try to persuade you anymore. But you must be careful of the guests from the other 2 tribes. There are no weaklings among those who can enter the tunnel of Han Mountain." As Fong Mu spoke, he brought out a wooden slip from his bosom and handed it to Su Ming. "Senior, you've helped me heal over the years. Besides searching for herbs for you, there's nothing else I can do. This wooden slip contains some information about the guests from Lake of Colors and Puqiang tribe. I hope it will be of help to you." When Su Ming heard it, he took the wooden slip and opened it to take a look. There were a lot of small words densely packed inside. There were also some pictures. There were even bits of wood on the words. It looked like they had just been carved not too long ago. Also, all the guests from Tranquil East Tribe who enter the tunnel of Han Mountain have the chance to choose an imitation berserker vessel. My father asked me to tell you that when you choose later, you must choose a whip, Fong Mu said in a low voice. Before long, he brought Su Ming to the top of the mountain belonging to Tranquil East Tribe. The place was flat, as if the peak of the mountain had been shaved off. The fog was thick, and Su Ming could see 9 people sitting at the center of the place. There were 7 people surrounding the area, and there were 2 people in the middle. Their faces could not be seen clearly, but Su Ming could feel the power of qi coming from their bodies. Once he brought Su Ming to the place, Fong Mu took a few steps back and stood in the distance. Even if he was the son of the tribe leader, he could not get close to the tribe in this sort of situation. Su Ming's expression was calm as he walked towards the 9 people before him. As he got closer, a serious look gradually appeared in his eyes. Among these 9 people, all of them were powerful berserkers. It was especially so for the old man, sitting at the top of the 7 people surrounding the area. He wore a blue robe and had a head full of white hair. His eyes were closed, but as he sat there, he looked like a tiger or a dragon. It made Su Ming's heart beat faster. To the old man's left was the tribe leader of Tranquil East tribe. The man who looked like an iron tower looked at Su Ming with bright eyes, and a smile appeared on his face. To the old man's right was also a strong man, but he was not too tall. Even when he sat down, he was slightly shorter than Fang Shun. However, the presence coming from his body was not any weaker than Xianlin's. It was clear that he had transcended. Su Ming swept his gaze across the area. Besides the old man and the slightly short man, there was another person who had also transcended among the 7 people surrounding the area. That person was also an old man. He wore a black robe, and his back was turned toward Su Ming. Tranquil East tribe, I've already seen 3 transcended berserkers, and the feeling I get from that old man in blue surpasses that of Xianlun. The others also have a great amount of qi. They might have more than 800 blood veins, and this shouldn't be the full strength of Tranquil East tribe. As for the 2 people in the middle, could they be the guests who are going to enter the tunnel of Han Mountain with me? Su Ming did not bat an eyelid. Once he got closer, he stopped. Your MO, Su? A cold voice traveled forth languidly. The person who spoke was a middle-aged man in red robes, sitting beside the short man in the Transcendence realm. His expression was aloof. Even if there was fog separating them, when his words traveled forth, there was still a chill in them. Yes, Su Ming answered calmly. You're the one who joined Tranquil East tribe halfway and wanted to become a guest. You even made a ridiculous request to enter the tunnel of Han Mountain. The tribe leader might have vouched for you, but a person who came so suddenly must have ill intentions. He's even wearing a mask. What a joke. Unless he can prove his worth, then I won't agree to it today. The middle-aged man laughed coldly. Once he swept his gaze, he passed Su Ming. He did not even look at him. Instead, he stared at the tribe leader of Tranquil East sitting across him. To be continued. If you like this work, then please come Achidian. Come and vote for me. Your support is my greatest motivation. Chapter 146. The middle-aged man's words were sharp and echoed in the quiet mountain. The short man in the Transcendence realm by his side looked as calm as ever, but there was a hint of a smile on his lips. The others did not seem to have heard him. All of them remained silent. As for the old man in blue robes, he still had his eyes closed, as if he did not care about all of this. The 2 people surrounded were just as Su Ming had guessed. They were not members of Tranquil East tribe, but guests from the 3rd batch of people entering the tunnel of Han Mountain. One of them was an old man with red hair, and the other was a young man in his 30s. Their faces were calm, and they did not even spare a glance at this matter. Chief of the Guards, what qualifications do you want him to have? I, Fang Shun, have the qualifications. The tribe leader of Tranquil East tribe said slowly. The middle-aged man still did not look at Su Ming. Instead, he stared at Fang Shun and spoke darkly. As the tribe leader, I believe that he has no ill intentions towards Tranquil East tribe, but the number of people who can enter the tunnel of Han Mountain is limited. Due to his appearance, Zhou Yu is no longer one of the 3. If he can prove that he is stronger than Zhou Yu, then I will agree to this. In fact, he did not even wait for Fang Shun to speak before he let out a low growl. Zhou Yu, if you can win against this person, then no one can stop you from entering the tunnel. The moment the middle-aged man finished speaking, a long string of laughter came from the other end of the platform at the top of the mountain. Soon, as the fog tumbled about, a man about 10 feet tall walked out from the other end of the stairs. That man was not clothed, revealing his powerful body. His face was ugly, and he walked towards them with a ferocious smile. As he got closer, a vast presence of qi rose from him, causing a large amount of the fog around them to scatter. His appearance made the tribe leader of Tranquil East tribe frown. Even the 2 guests who were seated cross-legged in the encirclement also opened their eyes and solemnly looked at the large man who was walking over. The man's feet landed on the ground and let out banging sounds. Once he arrived, he stood beside the smiling short man in the Transcendence realm. He wrapped his fist in his palm and bowed towards the old man in blue robes. His voice was like a tidal wave. Zhou Yu greets the elder, the chief of battle, and the head of the guards. As the man spoke, he also bowed towards the short man in the Transcendence realm and the middle-aged man in red robes. The blue-robed old man kept his eyes closed and ignored him. However, Zhou Yu did not mind it at all. He knew who the man was. If the elder of Tranquil East tribe really opened his eyes and nodded at him, the man would definitely be overwhelmed by the favor. Zhou Yu, this is the person who took your place. Go and fight against him. The head of the guards of Tranquil East, the middle-aged man in red robes, spoke darkly and pointed at Su Ming. Lord Head of the Guards, I might not be able to control my strength. If I accidentally kill him. A murderous glint appeared in Zhou Yu's eyes. He glared at Su Ming and laughed ferociously as if he was looking at a corpse. It's fine. I believe that the tribe leader won't mind this. After all, if we don't see the corpses when they fight, we won't be able to tell the truth. The person who spoke was not the middle-aged man in red robes, but the short chief of battle of the Transcendence realm. Mo Su, you once told me that you learned the savage art of killing. Today, show me. The tribe leader of Tranquil East Tribe's face darkened. They had come to an agreement regarding Su Ming the day before, but today, just as the ceremony was about to begin, his opponent suddenly counterattacked. Su Ming was silent. He did not speak. Before him, Zhou Yu walked towards him with huge steps. The ground rumbled under his feet. Zhou Yu's body was incredibly large, much larger than a normal person's. As he approached, it was as if a small mountain was falling on him. His face was hideous and ferocious. The blood veins on his body swelled up in an instant and turned into a powerful pressure. As the red light shone around him, it dyed the fog at the top of the mountain red. Compared to him, Su Ming's body was frail to begin with. Even if he wore a black robe as a disguise, his height was still much lower than the man's. When the two of them stood together, they gave off a feeling that they were not on equal footing. How dare you steal my place? Die. Zhou Yu let out a low growl and took a huge step forward. He leapt into the air and clenched his right hand into a fist. Cracking sounds came from within his body, as if his bones were crashing against each other. A shocking amount of power erupted from his fist, and he closed in on Su Ming with a ferocious smile as he threw a punch. He had been preparing for this punch for an entire night. He had to make sure that his opponent didn't have the slightest bit of strength to fight back. His opponent's body would explode, and his flesh and blood would splatter everywhere. He enjoyed the feeling of his opponent exploding under his fist. In his past experience, many people had died under his strength. He believed that this skinny guy in front of him would not be an exception. In fact, to prevent any accidents, Zhou Yu used his full strength when he attacked. A gigantic illusion appeared behind him. That illusion was of a black ape. It was roaring soundlessly and charging towards Su Ming with Zhou Yu. Zhou Yu has become much stronger. The two young men from the guest house who were surrounded by the crowd had a glint in their eyes. Their expressions were grave. The old man beside them also became serious. As he watched Zhou Yu charge forward with a ferocious smile, a contemplative look appeared on his face. The head of the guards of Tranquil East Tribe, the middle-aged man in red robes, looked at him coldly. He did not think that Zhou Yu had the ability to kill Mo Su with one punch, but he believed that when Mo Su retreated, he would be in a pathetic state. He wanted to let this person know that besides the elder, no one else in Tranquil East Tribe could call the shots. Tranquil East Tribe's transcended chief of the guards, the short man, had a smile on his lips. His judgment was slightly different from the man in red robes. He did not want to stop Fang Shan. In fact, he could not see through this mysterious person called Mo Su. He wanted to use this chance to see Su Ming's strength. Everyone had different thoughts, even the people who had been silent all this while looked over. Yet the moment Zhou Yu closed in on Su Ming, a shocking change happened. Not only did Su Ming not dodge, he instead took a step forward and closed the distance between him and Zhou Yu. The moment Zhou Yu threw his fist forward with a maniacal laughter and murderous intent, just as Su Ming was about to enjoy the feeling of Zhou Yu's flesh exploding, Su Ming lifted his right hand and punched Zhou Yu's fist. A loud bang rang in the air. Zhou Yu descended from midair. Su Ming stood on the ground in his black robes and black mask. His robes danced in the air as he clenched his right hand into a fist and clashed with Zhou Yu's fist. Cracking sounds rang in the air. Zhou Yu saw flesh and blood, but it was coming from his body. His right hand exploded, turning into a shrill scream of pain. His ferocious expression turned into confusion. His vicious grin turned into terror, and his expression was replaced by shock. He could clearly feel a fierce presence coming from Su Ming's fist. That presence charged into his right hand like a hot knife through butter. Once his entire right arm exploded, it rushed into his body. At the instant it spread out with a bang, he lost all feeling in his legs. His left arm and his entire body looked as if they no longer existed. His vision was filled with red, and in that red he saw Su Ming pulling his right hand back and sweeping his black robes off his body. That was the last thing he saw. After that, his world froze. The breathing of the two guests who were surrounded by the crowd instantly quickened. They widened their eyes. To them, the scene just now had happened too quickly. In an instant, Zhou Yu's gigantic body disappeared before Mo Su's eyes, disintegrating inch by inch. A living person had disappeared just like that. That terrifying scene made the two guests in disbelief. When they looked at Su Ming, respect immediately appeared in their eyes. He didn't dodge, but responded with the same punch. He managed to crush Zhou Yu's body. He didn't even use much of his qi. There was no change in his footsteps either. It's clear that killing Zhou Yu was nothing to him. No matter where they were, powerful berserkers would always be respected. At that moment, Su Ming had used his actions to obtain that respect. A glint appeared in the tribe leader of Tranquil East's eyes. A smile slowly appeared on his face, but he was also shocked. He knew that Zhou Yu had the blood of the mighty mountain tribe flowing through his veins. He might only have 700-something blood veins, but with his natural strength, it would not be easy for those who had more blood veins than him to win against him. More importantly, Su Ming had only used one punch. The pupils of the head of the guards of Tranquil East shrank. He felt as if he had been slapped in front of the crowd. He did not expect that Zhou Yu would not even be able to take one punch from Su Ming. In fact, he knew that even if he could withstand Zhou Yu's punch, he would at most be able to force Zhou Yu back. He could not kill him. By his side, the smile on the chief of battle's lips froze. His pupils shrank, and a serious look appeared on his face. His power in the transcendence realm allowed him to see some details that others had overlooked. Fine control and the power of a berserker vessel. This person, the chief of battle's eyes flashed, and he gave up on the thought of testing Su Ming. Su Ming swept his robes and looked at the red-robed head of the guards of Tranquil East coldly through the mask. When the red-robed man met Su Ming's gaze, a chill immediately rose in his heart. Almost the moment that chill appeared, Su Ming took a step forward. His speed was so quick that in the blink of an eye, he disappeared right before the red-robed man's eyes, even though the distance between them was less than 100 feet. He was momentarily stunned and cursed in his heart. He stood up swiftly, but the moment he did so, he immediately froze. His pupils shrank, and he stared blankly at Su Ming, who had appeared before him at some unknown point of time and had his right index finger at the center of his brows. He could only see the mask on Su Ming's face. Right then, he no longer thought that the mask was funny. Instead, his heart trembled and his face was filled with shock. He was not the only one who was shocked. The Transcendence Chief of Battle was also shocked. A brilliant light appeared in his eyes, and he immediately circulated the qi in his body. Mo Su, what are you doing? Even the tribe leader of Tranquil East was momentarily stunned before he stood up abruptly. He did not see how Su Ming had appeared before the head of the guards. The others were all shocked, and their gazes instantly gathered on Su Ming. Su Ming's right index finger was placed at the center of the pale-faced head of the guards of Tranquil East's brows. He looked at the person before him with an aloof gaze. Now, do I have the right? You, the head of the guards of Tranquil East, the man in red robes, felt his heart tremble. He rarely felt such a strong sense of danger. The pressure from Su Ming's finger made him feel as if his body and mind were about to crumble. It gave him the illusion that he was facing the elder. The coldness in Su Ming's eyes also made him certain that it was a killing intent that could be triggered at any moment. "You have the right." An old voice traveled forth slowly. For the first time, the white-haired elder of Tranquil East opened his eyes and looked at Su Ming. He drank too much yesterday. He only remembered that he was going to give out leaflets and ask for tickets at midnight. Everything else was a little blurry. When he woke up in the morning and saw the leaflets he was given, he broke out in a cold sweat. He drank more than half a liter of white wine and 4 to 5 bottles of beer. It had been a long time since he drank so much. A good friend of his came back from Hangzhou. We drank together and talked about the past. It felt good. Since it was too late, we were the only ones left in the restaurant. We drank, laughed, and cried. 5 men in their 30s shouted together, making the waitress beside them frown as she watched. She must be thinking that we were mentally ill. Everyone should be familiar with this friend who came back from Hangzhou. He was the original form of Zhou Yi in the Renegade Immortal. He was the infatuated man who held Qin Shuang's corpse and protected her for thousands of years. He even told his story last night. His tears melted in his wine cup, and he swallowed them. "I'm very happy. I'm asking for votes today. I'm asking for them as much as I can. I hope that you can vote and let my wish come true. To be continued. If you like this work, please come Chidian. Come and vote for me. Your support is my greatest motivation." Chapter 147. There was a profound look in his eyes, like the starry sky at night. The moment Su Ming met his gaze, a bang went off in his head, and he staggered a few steps back, causing the head of the guards of Tranquil East to quickly charge forward. Once he left Su Ming's grasp, he stood beside the elder of Tranquil East with a pale face. There was fear in his eyes as he looked at Su Ming. "All right, Mo Su. From now on, you are a guest of Tranquil East Tribe. Fong Shun, give him the plate." The elder of Tranquil East Tribe said slowly and averted his gaze from Su Ming. Su Ming was secretly shocked, but his eyes remained calm. Fong Shun looked at Su Ming with praise in his eyes. Su Ming killing Zhou Yu had only surprised him slightly because of the power contained in his punch. He was not too surprised. However, Su Ming's speed after that shocked Fong Shun. He could not even see Su Ming's body clearly. The pressure from that one finger just now made him reevaluate Su Ming's strength. When he heard the words, Fong Shun laughed and brought out a plate from his bosom. The plate was entirely white, and there was a number on it, 15. Just as he was about to hand it to Su Ming, the elder of Tranquil East Tribe suddenly lifted his right hand and seized the air. The plate charged towards the elder through the air. He held in his hand and wiped away the number 15 with his left hand, carving a new number on it. 3. When he saw the number, a barely noticeable glint appeared in the transcendent chief of War's eyes. The tribe leader of Tranquil East Tribe smiled faintly, but the people around them, especially the 2 guests, looked at Su Ming once again. Su Ming did not understand, but he could somewhat guess what was going on. When no one explained, he did not ask any questions. He took the plate from the elder of Tranquil East Tribe and placed it in his bosom. "Family of Moism, please sit among us. We will activate the tunnel in Han Mountain and send the 3 of you there," the elder of Tranquil East Tribe said slowly as he looked at Su Ming. The term family of Moism was an honorific given to guests in the tribe to show their friendliness. Su Ming wrapped his fist in his palm to thank them and walked into the crowd. The 2 guests who had the same status as him quickly stood up. They waited for Su Ming to sit down before sitting down cross-legged again. "Sirs, we're not outsiders. Besides, Mo family has just joined Tranquil East Tribe, so there are some things we need to tell them. Fong Shun, you tell them." The elder of Tranquil East Tribe closed his eyes. Fong Shun nodded his head in agreement. His gaze swept past Su Ming and the other 2 people, and with a slightly grave expression, he spoke in a low voice. "Brother Chun and Brother Dong Fong have some understanding towards the tunnel of Han Mountain, but Brother Mo's knowledge should be limited. The tunnel leads straight to the canyons under Han Mountain City. The area inside is rather big, and there are powerful seals around it. This kind of restriction could only be weakened by the immemorial creation fog. Hundreds of years ago, Han Mountain City belonged to Han Mountain Tribe. The tunnel was also built by Han Mountain Tribe. The canyon was where Han Mountain's ancestor passed away. The power of Han Mountain's ancestor is shocking. I believe all of you have heard of him. I'm not afraid of you laughing at me, but in the past, Tranquil East Tribe was affiliated to Han Mountain Tribe. We might have become the masters of Han Mountain, but we still haven't completely explored the place where Han Mountain's ancestor passed away. This is related to the seals within the tunnel and the fact that we can only enter for a short period of time. More importantly, the tribe members of Tranquil East Tribe, Lake of Colors Tribe, and Puchang Tribe will be affected by the seals within the tunnel. Their power will be limited, and every time the tunnel is activated, only one tribe member from each tribe can enter. Once two tribe members enter, one of them will definitely die on the spot. However, outsiders who do not have the blood of the three tribes do not have this restriction. This is also the reason why Tranquil East Tribe is taking in so many guests. Over the years, many guests have entered. Some of them died, and some of them obtained serendipity. It doesn't matter if they live or die. It's all up to them. You are Tranquil East Tribe's guests. Tranquil East Tribe will worship you and even give you this serendipity. Tranquil East Tribe will not interfere with the serendipity you obtain inside. But we have two conditions. 1. You must bring back at least one of the items listed in Tranquil East Tribe's list. If you can bring back more, we will reward you handsomely. The approximate location of their locations is written on the wooden slip. You can choose from them. As Fong Shin spoke, someone beside him brought out 3 wooden slips and handed them to Su Ming and the other 2. Secondly, this is, after all, the place where Han Mountain's ancestor died. There are 2 seals in this place. The first seal will be weakened by the fog from the once of eternal creation, allowing you to enter, but the second seal is located at the center of this place. It's a tomb. There are 3 towers outside the tomb. The white one belongs to Tranquil East Tribe. If you want to go there, send all your chi into it. You don't have to worry about danger. Once you send your chi in, it will automatically be absorbed into the tower and you will return to this place. And Tranquil East Tribe will definitely not do anything that will harm you. After all, this is a long-term matter. If we break the rules, then no one will help us in the future. These are the only 2 conditions. As for the rest, all the items and serendipity you obtain will be your own serendipity. I can also tell the 3 of you that there are quite a number of burial items belonging to Han Mountain's ancestor scattered in the canyons. Whether you can obtain them will depend on your luck, Fong Shan said in a low voice with a grave expression on his face. You are the 3rd batch of people to enter. According to the agreement we made with the other 2 tribes, only 10 guests can enter each time we open the canyons. After you, there will be a few more people who will enter after a few days. The dangers in the canyons come not only from the seals, but also from the other 2 tribes. Do your best. Fong Shan cast Su Ming a glance and lifted his right hand. Immediately, 3 balls of gentle light flew out from his sleeve. There were 3 berserker vessels floating within the 3 balls of light. One of them was a gray, withered log. One was a white bone blade, and there seemed to be an endless amount of vengeful spirits surrounding it as they howled soundlessly. The last item was a black whip. The whip was coiled up, and at first glance, it looked like a poisonous snake. Tranquil East Tribe will reward all those who enter the tunnel of Han Mountain. These 3 items may be imitation berserker vessels, but they are still quite powerful. Once the 3 of you choose, we will activate the canyons and send you in. As Fong Shin spoke, he looked at Su Ming once again. Su Ming sat cross-legged on the ground. His mask was black, so no one could see his expression. They could only see the cold look in his eyes. The 2 people beside him hesitated for a moment before the old man smiled at Su Ming and wrapped his fist in his palm. Brother Imo, please choose first. That's right. Brother Imo, please. The other guest, the man named Chun, also spoke with a smile. If that's the case, then I thank the both of you. Su Ming lifted his right hand and seized the air in the direction of the whip that looked like a poisonous snake. The whip immediately shuddered and charged towards Su Ming. It wrapped around his right hand and let out a faint heat. Once the old man and the man named Chun chose the vessel they wanted, the elder of Tranquil East tribe opened his eyes and lifted his hands before pressing them down on the ground. At the same time, the other people did the same. Even the head of the guards, who was fearful of Su Ming, returned to his original spot. He took a deep breath and pressed his hands on the ground. Once everyone pressed their hands on the ground, the entire mountain immediately started trembling. Balls of white mist appeared and charged towards them. In an instant, they surrounded the platform at the top of the mountain. Su Ming focused his gaze and saw a large ball of white mist rapidly gathering together. Very soon, it turned into a gigantic statue of the god of berserkers. The statue of the god of berserkers was nearly 1,000 feet tall. It floated in the air. It was not in the shape of a human, but a gigantic white bull. There were two bells on its horns. One of them was black, and the other was white. As its body gathered together and moved, clanging sounds reverberated in the air. The moment the white bull appeared, the tribe members of Tranquil East tribe knelt down on the ground and worshipped the bull in the sky. Murmurs also echoed in the air. Song Lan knelt down on one knee in the crowd. She lifted her head and looked at the white bull. She knew that this was one of the 4 statues of the god of berserkers from Tranquil East tribe, the Longhorn Bull. Even if she had become a disciple of Freezing Sky Clan and had seen the many statues of the god of berserkers in the great tribe of Freezing Sky, she still respected the things belonging to her tribe. Yet at that moment, besides respect towards the statue of the god of berserkers, there was also a complicated feeling of pity towards Su Ming, who was carrying out the ceremony at the top of the mountain. You've forgotten your memories, or should I say, someone wiped them away. Song Lan shuddered. She remembered everything she had seen just now, and her face turned pale once again. The tribe members of Tranquil East tribe were not the only ones acting this way. In the distance, all the tribes within the mountains of Tranquil East tribe were worshipping the bull. The gigantic longhorn bull lifted its head and let out a roar towards the sky. Immediately, a strong light shone brightly at the spot where the berserkers of Tranquil East tribe stood. The light lasted for a few breaths before it slowly disappeared. Su Ming and the other 2 disappeared within. After a long while, the longhorn bull turned into white mist once again and disappeared from the world. Everything returned to normal. On the platform on the mountain, the 7 people, including the elder of Tranquil East tribe, lifted their hands. All of them remained silent. After a while, the white-haired old man, the elder of Tranquil East tribe, spoke in a hoarse voice. I know what you're suspecting. This Mo Su used the power of the berserker vessel in his body to kill Zhou Yu just now. From the start till the end, I didn't sense any spirit stones from his body. He should have nothing to do with the remnants of Han Mountain. As long as he's not related to the remnants of Han Mountain, then it's fine. But this person's power is very strange. He doesn't seem to have transcended, but he has his origin berserker vessel and the art to enter fine control in the transcendence realm, and his speed. The one who spoke was the chief of battle. He could not understand this. Song Lan once said that this person might have transcended before, but his power fell because of some reason, Fong Shun said calmly, interrupting the chief of battle's words. The chief of battle cast Fong Shun a glance and fell silent. Han Songzi's judgment is the same as mine. There's a high possibility that this person is like that. Oh well, no matter where he came from, as long as he doesn't have any ulterior motives, we can let him stay. All of you can leave. The elder of Tranquil East tribe's eyes were profound, as if he was hiding some thoughts that no one else knew. The people obeyed and left. A person who caught Han Songzi's attention. Besides him in the past, there's now a second person. I wonder if this Mo Su will be as stunning as he was in the past, and I feel like I'm seeing him in this Mo Su. The elder of Tranquil East tribe mumbled as he stood alone on the platform. An enigmatic smile appeared on his lips. We'll continue drinking at night. If there are any fellow Taoists who are drinking outside, remember that there's a handsome little fatty in the northeast with us. We're in different places, but we're all looking at the same galaxy. To be continued. If you like this work, please come Achidian. Come and vote for me. Your support is my greatest motivation. Chapter 148. The fog covered the land of South Morning during the first day of eternal creation. The fog was the thickest at the center of the land of South Morning, and it spread outwards. The fog might be slightly thinner, but it was still indistinct. Han Mountain City was now shrouded in fog, causing those who stood on the mountain to not be able to see the ravines of the past, only a sea of fog. In fact, if they looked at it for a prolonged period of time, they would feel as if they were walking through the fog. There was a gigantic chamber right underneath the mountain where Han Mountain City was located. That chamber was several thousands of feet big, and it was located at the bottom of the mountain. There were not many who knew of its existence. There were dim bonfires burning quietly around the chamber, as if they would never be extinguished. They caused the place to flicker between light and darkness, making it look rather eerie. There were ravines on the ground that formed a circular picture. That picture was incredibly complicated and exuded a feeling of time. It was clear that it had been there for a very long time. The surroundings were quiet. Other than the crackling of the flames, there were no other sounds. On the walls of this secret chamber, one could see that there were 3 branching tunnels that were connected to this place. They were like 3 pitch-black mouths that were silently opened. At that moment, white light suddenly shone from the gigantic picture on the ground. The light grew stronger. In the span of a few breaths, it suppressed the light from the fire around it, causing the chamber to be completely enveloped in white light. After a moment, when the white light reached its peak, 3 people could be seen twisting within the light. They gradually appeared, and the moment they appeared, the light from the picture disappeared, causing the chamber to instantly turn dark. Among the 3 people was a young man in his 30s. He was the guest named Chun from Tranquil tribe. His face was pale, and he knelt on the ground, retching continuously, but he could not vomit anything out. However, his trembling body showed that the process of him being sent to this place was incredibly painful for him. Beside the young man was the old guest named Dong Fong. He might not be retching like the man named Chun, but his face was also as pale as the young man named Chun. Sweat beaded on his forehead as he struggled to take a few brisk steps forward. When he arrived at the edge of the picture on the ground, he immediately sat down cross-legged. Just as he was about to adjust his breathing, he saw Su Ming. Su Ming stood at the center of the picture on the ground. He wore a black mask, and no one could see his face. At that moment, his eyes were closed, and his heart was pounding against his chest. There was a strange flush on his face under the mask. When he opened his eyes, the old man looked towards him. Their gazes met, and the old man was immediately shocked. In his eyes, Su Ming's eyes were aloof, and not a single hint of emotion could be detected within them. It was as if he had not been too hurt by the process of being relocated. "Please regulate your breathing first. I will protect you," Su Ming said calmly. The old man quickly forced out a smile. Once he nodded towards Su Ming, he closed his eyes and began meditating. At this moment, the young man named Chun struggled over to the old man's side. He was breathing heavily and began to adjust his breathing with a wry smile. Su Ming did not speak. He walked out of the picture on the ground and stood not too far away from his 2 companions. A contemplative look appeared in his eyes as he looked at the picture on the ground. This pattern was extremely complicated, and just looking at it would cause one to feel dizzy. "Brother Mo, your power is extraordinary. You managed to withstand the pressure of the relocation. I'm impressed. Thank you for protecting us." This picture was carved by the people of Han Mountain tribe, based on the will of Han Mountain's ancestor. No one knows the details of its use now. Once the 3 tribes occupied Han Mountain City, they used the power of their statues of the god of berserkers to modify it so that it could be used for relocation during the first day of eternal creation. The old man opened his eyes and spoke languidly. "You're welcome. Since the 3 of us came here together, it's only natural that we take care of each other. Besides, I've just become a guest at Tranquil East. There's still many things I don't understand. I'll have to trouble you to explain to me." Su Ming averted his gaze from the picture on the ground and looked at the old man. The old man cast a glance at the young man named Chun by his side. We saw that he was still regulating his breathing and would not be able to recover within a short period of time. He wrapped his fist in his palm towards Su Ming politely and smiled. I am Dong Fanghua. Brother Imo, you may have just become a guest of Tranquil East, but the Elder of Tranquil East gave you a plate with the number 3 on it. It's clear how much Tranquil East tribe values you. I might have to trouble you in the future. A plate with the number 3 on it? Su Ming had already guessed it before, but when he heard the old man's words, he became certain of his guess. That's right, Brother Imo. The guests of Tranquil East tribe are ranked according to their abilities. As Dong Fanghua spoke, he brought out a plate from his bosom. The number on this old man's piece is 7. That means that there might be 6 people in front of me who are stronger than me. Dong Fanghua pointed to the young man meditating by his side and continued, Brother Chin's plate has the number 11. As for Zhou Yu, who was killed by you just now, he has the number 8. Then who had the plate with the number 3 on it before me? Su Ming suddenly asked. I'm not too sure myself. The holders of the plates with the number 3 on it don't really interact with us. Dong Fanghua smiled bitterly. Brother Mo, I know about this. The young man named Chen let out a deep breath and opened his eyes. He got up and wrapped his fist in his palm towards Su Ming before speaking in a low voice. There aren't many guests in Tranquil East tribe. There are always around 20 of them. Before you came here, the holder of the plate with the number 3 should have already died, and there's a high possibility that he died here, or else the elder of Tranquil East tribe wouldn't have changed the plate. There are risks and serendipity in this place. The tribe leader of Tranquil East tribe didn't lie to us. If we're lucky, we can find serendipity here that we can't find outside. This is also why we became guests and are willing to work for Tranquil East tribe. Brother Imo, it's best if you don't go alone in this place. Once you're alone and you run into the guests from other tribes, it'll be very dangerous. The young man named Chen's expression returned to normal as he looked at Su Ming and spoke in a low voice. All right, Brother Chen, since you've recovered, let's leave this place quickly. We're the 3rd batch to enter this place. We don't know what happened before us. The guests from Tranquil East tribe should be waiting for us outside the tunnel. We have to meet up with them quickly. Besides, the 3rd batch of people from Lake of Colors and Puqiang tribe should be arriving soon. These 3 tribes are on guard against each other. That's why the time they enter is close to each other. Even though the power of the relocation seal will spread out before we leave the tunnel, and the 3 tribes are worried about accidents and forbid us from fighting against each other, it's still best if we avoid them, Dong Fanghua urged. The young man, named Chen, nodded when he heard the words and wrapped his fist in his palm towards Su Ming before taking a few brisk steps towards the tunnel that looked like a gaping mouth. Su Ming followed behind him in silence and walked towards the tunnel with Dong Fanghua. Right at that moment, almost at the instant Su Ming and the other 2 stepped into the tunnel, the picture on the ground behind them suddenly shone with light once again. This time, the light was not white, but a dark light that illuminated the entire chamber. Dong Fanghua and the young man named Chen's expressions changed. It's Puqiang tribe. Su Ming's pupils shrank. Without batting an eyelid, he looked over. The dark light only lasted for a short period of time before disappearing. 3 people appeared on the ground of the chamber. The person in front wore a purple robe and had a dark expression on his face. He had his hands behind his back and looked incredibly relaxed. His gaze fell on Su Ming and the other 2 in an instant. Once he swept his gaze past them, he took a closer look at Su Ming before letting out a cold harumph and no longer paying any attention to him. Xianluan, the chief guest of Puqiang tribe. He's not the 1st batch to enter, but the 3rd batch. Dong Fanghua and a young man named Chen were shocked. They instinctively took a few steps back and looked at Xianluan with respect. The 2 people behind Xianluan looked to be in their 40s. Their faces were pale as they struggled to follow Xianluan out of the picture on the ground and immediately sat down cross-legged to meditate. Xianluan stood by the side with his hands behind his back. There was a hint of annoyance between his brows. He had been searching for Yifeng and the person named Su for a long time, but he had not found any clues. His temper had become worse, and he would kill at the slightest provocation. When he saw the 3 guests from Tranquil East tribe, He would have killed them a long time ago if it were not for the fact that killing here would cause a ripple in the relocation seal, and that he would not be able to bear the consequences even if he was the chief guest of Puqiang tribe. Get lost, Qianluan said coldly. He may not be looking at Su Ming and the other two, but they understood what he meant. Dongfang Hua and the young man named Chen did not dare say anything. They lowered their heads and quickly retreated. Su Ming was right behind them and was just about to leave with Dongfang Hua. Wait, I've seen all the guests from Tranquil East Tribe before. Who are you? Take off your mask. Qianluan pointed at Su Ming. Dongfang Hua's footsteps faltered, and the young man named Chen also stopped. Su Ming frowned by the side. Yifeng's anxious words immediately appeared in his head. Master, don't leave just like that. With my understanding of Qianluan, he's not testing you. He's just asking because he's annoyed. Master, you can pretend to be arrogant. If you do that, he won't think of anything else. Su Ming's eyes flashed, and he stopped moving. He turned around and looked at Qianluan. His eyes were cold as he met Qianluan's gaze. If you want me to take off my mask, then you must have the right to win against me. Su Ming's words were calm. Once he finished speaking, he turned around and walked towards the tunnel. Dongfang Hua and the young man named Chen felt their hearts tremble when they heard Su Ming's words. They looked at each other, and after a moment of hesitation, they quickly followed him. When Qianluan heard the words, a glint appeared in his eyes, and he laughed coldly. He did not speak again, but the killing intent in his eyes had already reached its peak. Su Ming and the other two charged forward silently in the tunnel. Dongfang Hua and the young man named Chen widened the distance between them and Su Ming. The two of them had originally wanted to invite Su Ming to explore the place where Han Mountain's ancestor passed away, but after what happened with Qianluan, they changed their minds. Before long, a dim light appeared at the end of the tunnel before the three of them. There was a crack at the end of the tunnel, and beyond it was the hidden grounds of Han Mountain City. Dongfang Hua and a young man named Chen were just about to walk out when a glint appeared in Su Ming's eyes, and he stopped. Brother Dongfang, you said that once we walk out of the tunnel, the guests from Tranquil East who entered this place will receive us and protect us. Su Ming asked calmly. To be continued. If you like this work, then please come Chidian. Come and vote for me. Your support is my greatest motivation. Chapter 149. That's right. This is Tranquil East Tribe's promise. To prevent accidents, they will. Dongfang Hua was momentarily stunned. Just as he was explaining, his pupil shrank, and he looked outside the crack cautiously. It was quiet outside the crack. It was clear that no one had come to wait according to the promise. Something's wrong. The man named Chen's face was dark. He took a few steps forward and placed his right hand on the wall of the crack. He closed his eyes and opened them after a while. There's no ambush outside, but there's no guest who came as promised either. As he spoke, he exerted force with his right hand and dug out a mountain rock. He bit the tip of his tongue and coughed out a mouthful of blood before throwing it out of the crack. The rock immediately let out a thud and turned into a person who looked exactly like the man named Chen. He walked around the crack with a cautious look on his face. There's no ambush, but why aren't they here? The man named Chen looked at Dongfang Hua and whispered, Let's wait a little longer. Dongfang Hua frowned and looked at the people formed by the berserker art outside the crack. After the time it takes for an incense stick to burn, the people wandering outside turned into blood mist and turned back into stones. Su Ming looked at this and started paying attention to the man named Chen. Brother Mo, Brother Chen, something's not right. Once we get out, it's best if we don't split up. We'll head northwest together. I remember that's where Tranquil East Tribe gathers. There was a hint of anxiety on Dongfang Hua's face as he spoke in a low voice. When he saw Su Ming and the man named Chen nodding their heads, he took a deep breath, gritted his teeth, and rushed out. The man named Chen followed closely behind. Su Ming was right behind him, and the three of them rushed out of the crack. A gust of wind that carried the stench of blood blew into their faces, causing Su Ming's long hair to dance in the air. It was dark around them, and there was a thin layer of fog surrounding them. Black mist rose from the ground and gathered in the sky. Dongfang Hua and the man named Chen charged towards the northwest. turning into two long arcs on the ground. Su Ming originally wanted to follow them, but the moment he walked out, he instinctively lifted his head to look at the sky. The moment he looked over, his body suddenly trembled. The calmness and aloofness in his eyes were instantly replaced by shock, and he stopped moving against his will. Brother Imo? The man named Chun who was charging ahead was stunned. He turned his head around and cast Su Ming a glance. Don't worry about him. Something must have happened here. We can't stay here for long. Dong Fanghua said quickly. He didn't stop at all as he sped away. The young man, surnamed Chun, hesitated for a moment and then hurriedly left. Gradually, the two of them disappeared into the distance. Su Ming stood there dumbly and looked at the stars in the sky. He simply let He Feng's anxious voice call out to him in his head. It was as if he did not hear it, as if he had completely forgotten about it. He looked at the starry sky, and the confusion in his eyes replaced everything else. After experiencing the devastation in Dark Mountain, the confusion in the land of South Morning, the years of loneliness, the scene with He Feng, the various things that happened during this period of time made Su Ming used to calmness, became familiar with aloofness, and he often remained silent. It might not be rare for such an expression of shock to appear on his face, but it was definitely not a common occurrence. He had even stepped into the place where Han Mountain's ancestor passed away. In this place that was filled with danger, his shocked expression caused his mind to go blank for a few breaths. He looked at the sky. The fog might have been hazy, but he could still see through the fog that there were specks of starlight in the dark sky. The starlight flashed, and if it were not for the 4 cracks in the sky that had been torn open by someone some time ago and the fog seeping in through the cracks, Su Ming would have been unable to tell whether the starry sky was real or fake. It's fake, Su Ming mumbled. He looked at the 4 cracks. Their existence clearly told Su Ming that the starry sky in this place was fake. It was created by someone. It did not exist. Su Ming had seen this starry sky once before. Su Ming, remember this starry sky. The elder's voice echoed in Su Ming's head like the desolate wind. There was a dazed look on Su Ming's face as he stood there unmoving. He looked at the starry sky, and there was a vacant look in his eyes. It was quiet all around him, but there was a voice mumbling in Su Ming's heart. Why did the starry sky the elder asked me to remember appear here? Why did Han Mountain's ancestor set up this starry sky here? Why did his treasure make me feel so close to him? Why did He Feng not take away this treasure, but when it saw me, it fused into my body? Why did this sword open up a path of flesh and blood after it pierced my body? This path made me feel as if it had always existed, but it was blocked off. Why did Han Mountain's ancestors' red meadow absorb chi when others use it, but it's different when I use it? Why? Han Mountain's ancestor, where did you come from? Did you come from a land that belongs to this starry sky? And where did I come from? The mumbling voice in Su Ming's heart eventually turned into a roar. That roar existed only in his heart. No one else could hear it. They could only see Su Ming looking at the sky blankly as if he had lost his soul. There was a small hill several thousands of feet away from Su Ming. At that moment, there were 2 people sitting at the top of the hill. One of them was an old man in black robes. There was a bright glint in his eyes, and he pressed 2 fingers on his left hand against his right eye. Among the 3 people from Tranquil East tribe this time, Dong Fanghua and Chun Nua are heading northwest. They should be heading to the gathering spot of Tranquil East tribe. We can ignore that place. If they go there, they'll just be seeking their own deaths. There's still one person left. He's standing where he was and staring at the sky with a dumbfounded expression. His power doesn't exceed 800 blood veins. But there's no information about this person in the guest house of Tranquil East tribe. If he doesn't have 800 blood veins, then we'll just take his head and get enough blood. The tribe has been preparing for this for many years. It's impossible for Tranquil East tribe to have noticed this beforehand and be on guard against it. This person might be a new guest. Lin Dong attack. The person who spoke was a man in his 40s. Finish this quickly. We still have to meet up with the people who ambushed Puqiang tribe. Once the man in his 40s finished speaking, he closed his eyes. He wore a red robe, and a woman's face could be faintly seen on it. Only the people from Lake of Colors tribe could wear this sort of attire in Han Mountain City. It was clear that this man was a member of Lake of Colors tribe. The old man in black robes called Lin Dong nodded when he heard the man's words. He put down his left hand from his right eye and took a step forward. His speed was incredibly quick, and he soon disappeared without trace. Su Ming still stood there with a dazed look in his eyes. He had a strong feeling that there was definitely something that was incredibly similar between him and the ancestor of Han Mountain tribe. Yet it was as if there was a veil before him. He wanted to see everything clearly, but there was a feeling of haziness. He could only make guesses about everything. I'm going to find the place where he died. I'm going to see him. Su Ming closed his eyes and suddenly lifted his right hand, hurling a punch towards the empty space beside him. A muffled bang rang in the air, and ripples immediately appeared in the air beside Su Ming. An old man in black robes appeared. His face was pale, and once he appeared, blood trickled down the corner of his mouth. There may be shock and bewilderment in his eyes, but he did not retreat. Instead, he seized the air with his right hand. Black mist immediately filled the air and turned into a sharp, black claw that charged towards Su Ming. Su Ming might have been in a daze, but the moment he walked out of the crack, he had already activated the branding art. If there was even the slightest movement within a circular area of 2,000 feet, he would be able to sense it. The moment the old man in black robes appeared, Su Ming had already noticed it. At that moment, Su Ming did not look at the old man's black claw that was charging towards him. Instead, he lifted his head and looked coldly at the small mountain not too far away. Almost the moment his gaze focused on the top of the mountain, green light suddenly flashed before the old man who was closing in on him. A ray of green light appeared out of nowhere and pierced through the center of the old man's brows, bringing with it a trail of blood that spilled behind the old man. The old man's eyes widened and were filled with disbelief. His eyes became dull, and he fell 30 feet away from Su Ming. His body twitched a few times before he breathed his last and died. This scene happened too quickly. The man in red robes on the top of the mountain stood up swiftly. Shock appeared on his face. He originally did not pay much attention to this battle. He understood Lin Dong's level of cultivation. Even if this person only had 800 blood veins, his berserker art was mysterious. He could fuse with his body and get close to him quietly, making it difficult for others to notice him. With this berserker art, Lin Dong had been able to achieve great feats in the past. Yet the man in red robes did not expect that Lin Dong would die just like that. He did not even manage to see the process clearly. He only saw the person who had been staring blankly at the sky just now, throwing a punch. After that punch, Lin Dong might have been forced to reveal himself, but he still continued with his killing spree. Yet at that moment, Lin Dong suddenly died. The man in red robes felt his heart tremble. The moment he stood up, Su Ming turned his gaze towards him. Their gazes met in midair. Retreat. The man in red robes was shocked. At that moment, Su Ming was filled with a strange aura. As a member of the Lake of Colors tribe, he did not want to take any risks. As he spoke, he quickly retreated, intending to leave the place. Thinking of leaving, there was an aloof look in Su Ming's eyes. He took a step forward and increased his speed, turning into a long arc that charged towards the mountain while sticking close to the ground. When the man in red robes saw Su Ming's speed, he was even more shocked. He was 4,000 feet away from the small mountain, but as Su Ming closed in on him, the distance between them was rapidly shrinking. Even if the man in red robes was also retreating, Su Ming would catch up to him before long. This person killed Lin Dong so easily. He must be a powerful berserker who hid his power. I'm not his opponent. As the man in red robes retreated, a resolute look appeared on his face. He quickly lifted his right hand and brought out a red box the size of his palm from his bosom. Once he crushed it, a round stone floated out from within. That stone was entirely red, and there were numerous densely packed lines on it that formed an incredibly complicated picture. At the instant the man brought out the stone, a powerful red light immediately shone on it. As it spread out, the red-robed man's body gradually became indistinct. He stared at Su Ming, who was 3,000 feet away from him, and a cold sneer appeared at the corners of his lips. Lin Dong may have died, but I managed to find out that there's another powerful berserker in Tranquil East Tribe. I've completed my mission. You want to kill me? Humph. To be continued. If you like this work, please come Chidian. Come and vote for me. Your support is my greatest motivation. Chapter 150. Relocate. Yifeng's piercing voice appeared in Su Ming's head. That voice was filled with disbelief. Su Ming did not make a sound. As he charged forward, he got closer to the man in red robes. He saw the red stone in the man's hands, saw the man's body rapidly becoming indistinct, and even saw the hint of a cold sneer on his lips. 3,000 feet, 2,700 feet, 2,400 feet. When the distance between Su Ming and a man was reduced to 2,000 feet, the man in red robe's body had already become mostly indistinct. Under the powerful red light, he was about to disappear. Su Ming lifted his head, and a chilling glint appeared in his eyes. He would never show mercy to those who wanted to kill him. This was what the elder had taught him. He would kill all dangerous people. If a beast revealed its fangs, then it would have to pay the price. The moment the distance between the two of them was 2,000 feet, the mark of the small sword shone at the center of Su Ming's brows and turned into a ray of iridescent light. With a speed that could not be seen with the naked eye, it turned into a piercing whistle and charged towards the man in red robes. The man's body was almost completely transparent. The red light shone brightly and enveloped his body. There was a derisive look in his eyes as he closed his eyes. In his mind, when he opened his eyes once again, he would not see the person who killed Lin Dong. He would see his tribe members. Yet the moment he closed his eyes, the man's body immediately trembled. When he opened his eyes, the small virescent sword pierced through his transparent body. A shrill cry of pain reverberated in the air. The man's body was split into two. His upper body was sent away in a flash of red light, but the lower half of his body was cut in half by the small virescent sword and forced to stay in the place. Blood spilled everywhere. Half of the man's body fell to the side. The red light gradually dissipated, and the area slowly returned to normal. Only the half of the man's body on the ground bore witness to everything that had happened just now. Su Ming went up to the half of the man's body and swept his gaze across it. Yifeng, what did you say just now? Su Ming looked slightly tired. The power of the small virescent sword was too great, but at the same time, the price to pay for using it was also not small. It was especially so when he used it in an area of 2,000 feet. It had used up almost 70% of the spiritual power in the path of blood in Su Ming's body. However, Su Ming could clearly feel that the spiritual aura around him that he could absorb was much thicker here compared to the outside world. His recovery speed was also much faster. This made his desire towards Han Mountain's ancestor grow even stronger. Master, the man in red robes, just now is a member of Lake of Colors tribe. He's definitely not a guest. I don't know what the stone he took out earlier was, but it was clearly used for teleportation. What was engraved on the stone should be a teleportation array. It was just like how Master had been transported here by the power of the statue of the god of berserkers from Tranquil East Tribe. However, Tranquil East Tribe could only use the statue, and they had to make sure that the relocation rune in the tunnel was complete. But the member of Lake of Colors Tribe was not like that. He held a miniature relocation rune in his hand. Because of that, he could use the stone to teleport himself at any time and appear at a fixed spot in the area that Lake of Colors Tribe had set up. This is enough to prove that Lake of Colors Tribe has mastered the essence of relocation. Yifeng had already calmed down and was analyzing the situation carefully for Su Ming. Even Han Mountain Tribe didn't manage to figure out much about the relocation framework left behind by our ancestor. They could only use the ones that already existed and couldn't reconstruct them. The treasure that Lake of Colors Tribe snatched away was a jade slip. It recorded some of our ancestors' arts, and also the complicated changes and layout of the relocation rune. Lake of Colors Tribe must have made a great breakthrough in their research. Master, this trip is dangerous. The guests from Tranquil East tribe didn't come as promised. Something must have happened to their gathering spot. We can't go. If Dong Fanghua and that Chun guy go, they'll be walking right into a trap. Hefeng continued analyzing the situation. His words hurried. You said before that when the people from the 3 tribes come here, they'll be greatly suppressed because they've always been Han Mountain slaves. Su Ming was silent for a moment before he suddenly spoke. A thought seemed to flash in Hefeng's mind, and he immediately said, Master, I understand what you mean now. Lake of Colors tribe is very ambitious this time. There must be a lot of people from their tribe being relocated here. Besides the guests, most of them are their tribe members. I might have never seen the man in red robes before, but I didn't feel too many restrictions on him. If that's the case, could it be that Lake of Colors tribe has found a way to fight against this restriction? It should be a temporary resistance. Su Ming's gaze fell on the half of the corpse of the man in red robes beside him. The corpse was gradually withering away and letting out cracking sounds. It was the sound of the bones being compressed in a strange manner and cracking. As the corpse withered away, wisps of black mist spread out. This time, Lake of Colors tribe is going to make a big move. Without Tranquil East tribe and Puqiang tribe noticing, they might have enough power to open the tomb of their ancestor, which they've never been able to open, Hefeng mumbled. The situation in Han Mountain City is about to change. Master, we have to stop this. Hefeng seemed to have remembered something and immediately spoke, but the moment the words left his mouth, he regretted it. Su Ming left the place and charged towards the corpse of the old man in black robes. Once he got closer, he searched through the corpse's body and found a few items. Once he put them away into his storage bag, he ignored Hefeng. Master, When Hefeng saw Su Ming's actions, he became excited. I won't stop Lake of Colors tribe. I don't have the ability to either. Su Ming stood up beside the old man in black robe's corpse and spread the branding art to cover a circular area of 1,000 feet before he walked into the distance. But Master, if Lake of Colors tribe opens the tomb of our ancestor and becomes the strongest tribe in Han Mountain City, then your safety will be affected. Besides, Su Ming fell silent and looked at his surroundings. The hidden grounds under Han Mountain City seemed to have turned into a place of its own. It was dark all around, and there were numerous mountains that rose up and down. There was also fog surrounding the area, and in the silence, there was an eerie atmosphere. I don't know why Lake of Colors tribe will enter the tomb of our ancestor, but if we obtain the items left behind by the ancestor, the increase in our abilities is secondary. The key is that I think these treasures should belong to you, Master. You obtained the Virescent Sword and the beast's skin. With my help, it's not impossible for us to enter the ancestor's tomb alone in a few years. Hefeng had no other choice. He was anxious and could only place his hopes on Su Ming, hoping that he could persuade him. Hefeng, just what are you hiding from me? Su Ming asked calmly as he walked forward. The moment his words left his mouth, Hefeng's voice immediately fell silent. Master, I'm not hiding anything. I'm just worried about Lake of Colors tribe's goal. Once they obtain the items left behind by the ancestor, Hefeng was just about to explain. Don't you know Lake of Colors tribe's goal? It doesn't matter if it's Lake of Colors, Puqiang, or Tranquil East tribe. Don't you know their goals? Su Ming moved very quickly. As he spoke, he had already arrived at the top of a mountain. He stood there and looked into the distance with the muffled wind blowing against his face. There were many mountains in this place, and as they rose and fell, they formed a large number of valleys. At the end of Su Ming's sight, he saw a plain surrounded by numerous valleys. The plain was made of sand. There was a windstorm within it that connected the sky and the earth. Su Ming could vaguely see a gigantic building within the windstorm. It looked like it was far away, but in truth, if he walked over, he would be even further away. At that moment, at the limits of Su Ming's vision, he could vaguely see 3 stone towers and altars that were nearly 1,000 feet tall, surrounding the gigantic building in the depths of the windstorm. The 3 altars were located far away from each other, and their colors were clearly differentiated. They were black, red, and white. Behind the huge building was a red stone tower and an altar. At this moment, There were more than 10 figures dressed in red robes sitting cross-legged on the altar. From their seats, one could tell that they had a clear sense of who was more important and who was less important. The person in front of them was a very beautiful young married woman. Her eyes were closed, and her beautiful hair fluttered in the wind. At the corner of her mouth, there was a vermilion mole, causing her to exude a sense of charm. If anyone else saw this woman, they would definitely be able to recognize her with just one glance. Her face was practically the same as the face that was faintly discernible in the red mist in the mountain belonging to Lake of Colors tribe. That woman was the tribe leader of Lake of Colors tribe, Yinluan. Su Ming had only heard her voice and did not see her face when he was in Han Mountain City all those years ago. There were two people sitting behind Yinluan. One of them was Han Fei. She was dressed in a red robe, and her face was still covered by a veil. Her expression was cold. Beside her was a man who did not seem to be in his 30s. He had a dignified face and a big build. His eyes shone brightly, and when he occasionally looked towards Han Fei, there was undisguised adoration in his eyes. These people sat there quietly, as if they were waiting for time to pass. Yet at that moment, the altar suddenly shone with a red light. When the people looked over, a shrill scream of pain traveled through the air. As it echoed in the air, an indistinct figure appeared on the altar. That figure only had the upper half of its body. It rapidly gained corporeal form, and when it became clear, the person who appeared before the people was the man in red robes who had been cut in half by Su Ming. The man's face was pale. Once he appeared, he fell to the ground, trembling. There was nothing below his waist. Only half of his body remained. His life force was rapidly fading away. His mouth was filled with blood. He wanted to say something, but no sound came out. His appearance immediately caused the expressions of most of the people in Lake of Colors tribe, including Han Fei, to immediately change. The tribe leader of Lake of Colors tribe, Yinluan, focused her gaze. She lifted her hand and pointed towards the man in red robes. Immediately, a wisp of red mist charged towards him and seeped into his body through his eyes, ears, nose, and mouth, causing the man to immediately feel refreshed. Tribe leader, there's a new guest from Tranquil East tribe. This person killed Lin Dong in an instant. The man in red robes only managed to say this one sentence before his expression turned gloomy. But immediately, the blood that flowed out of his body gathered together and flew out of his body. It floated in midair and turned into a bloody figure. The blood shadow was very clear. It was Su Ming with his mask on. Recently, I've been reading the Renegade Immortal comic. The characters and stories in the comic gave me a very fresh feeling. The second chapter of the Renegade Immortal comic will be published today. My fellow Taoists, please feel free to read it together. To be continued. If you like this work, please come to Chidian. Come and vote for me. Your support is my greatest motivation. Chapter 151. Tribe leader, it's him. Help me take revenge. Once the man in red robes said his last sentence, he could no longer take it and fell to the ground dead. His corpse soon withered away and eventually turned into ashes that were swept away by the wind on the altar. I will take revenge for you. Yinluan looked at Su Ming's figure formed by the man's blood in midair and nodded. Han Fei frowned and focused her gaze on the figure. She felt that this person was slightly familiar, but she could not remember where that feeling came from. Tribe leader, let me take care of this person. He killed my tribesman. I'll go and capture him, Han Fei said softly. Her voice was as cold as ever. All right, but you only have 2 days. Don't be late. The woman smiled faintly and twirled her hair, which was blown by the wind, as she spoke gently. Her actions were filled with an indescribable allure. It made the tall man beside Han Fei stare at her, but he soon lowered his head, not daring to look at her. Yin Guang, go with him. This new guest of Tranquil East tribe can kill Lin Dong in an instant, so he must have some power. Yinluan turned her head back and looked at the young man with his head lowered. She lifted her right hand and gently caressed the young man's face. Yin Guang shuddered and quickly got up, obeying respectfully. Go. This blood shadow can guide you to him. Su Ming looked at the windstorm in the distance, and at the gigantic building that was obscured by the storm. He might not be able to see the building in detail and could only see an indistinct outline, but there was a powerful pressure moving along with the windstorm. He lifted his right hand and tapped his chest. Immediately, his flesh trembled and a wisp of dark fog was forced out of his body. It turned into a small person the size of a palm before him. That person was Yifeng. You don't know. Su Ming averted his gaze from the windstorm and looked at Yifeng. His eyes were not bright, but when Yifeng saw them, his heart trembled. He knew that he had been too impatient and had aroused Su Ming's suspicions. After going through all these things, he no longer looked down on Su Ming as much as he did in the beginning. At the same time he respected him, he also felt as if Su Ming's intelligence had grown and he had been seen through. I really don't. Yifeng answered carefully, but when he was halfway through his sentence, under Su Ming's calm gaze, Yifeng found himself unable to continue. Perhaps Lake of Colors tribe's goal is the legacy of Han Mountain tribe's ancestor, but more importantly, is to break the brand of the slave tribe. This was the reason why Puqiang tribe and Tranquil East tribe had opened up this place over and over again over the past hundreds of years, regardless of the cost. I can understand if others don't know, but if you don't, Su Ming smiled, but in Yifeng's eyes, he saw a cold glint in that smile. Master, brilliant idea. Wise. I'm just guessing about this. About this. I wasn't sure. That's why I didn't say it. Yifeng licked his lips. Realization and admiration appeared on his face as he looked at Su Ming. Su Ming looked at Yifeng. Yifeng's words and expression were things he had never seen before. Under Su Ming's gaze, Yifeng became very nervous. He blinked and was just about to speak. Honestly, I know what you're hiding, Su Ming suddenly said. His words made Yifeng's heart tremble. Su Ming averted his gaze from Yifeng's body and looked at the sandstorm that connected the sky and earth on the plains, surrounded by valleys in the distance. He could not hear the sound of the storm from his position, but he could feel that there was a shocking power contained within the storm. I'm really not hiding anything. Master, don't be suspicious. About that, I'm really not hiding anything. I've told you everything I know. Besides, my life is in your hands. How would I dare to hide anything from you? Besides, you're wise and mighty. You can tell what I'm thinking with just one glance. I wouldn't dare. Yifeng immediately smiled bitterly, but he let out a cold harumph in his heart. He had seen everything in his life. There was no way he would fall for Mo Su's lies. Han Mountain's ancestor isn't dead, Su Ming mumbled as he looked at the building in the distance. Yifeng's heart trembled violently. He originally wanted to hide it, but Su Ming's words were like a bolt of lightning striking down on him. It caused all the things Yifeng had to hide to crumble and reveal the true secret in his heart. This secret was his everything. It was the most important thing to him, but at that moment, Su Ming had spoken of it in a mumble. More importantly, Su Ming's tone was not one of inquiry. In fact, he did not even ask Yifeng about it. He was just talking to himself. Master, you must be joking. How could this be possible? Yifeng took a deep breath. His expression might have changed, but this did not mean that he was guilty. He could not use this unbelievable fact to cover it up. How could the ancestor not be dead? If the ancestor wasn't dead, the three tribes wouldn't have rebelled. If the ancestor wasn't dead, the three tribes would have been terrified. They wouldn't have stayed in Han Mountain City. Yifeng's face was filled with disbelief. When he saw that Su Ming was ignoring him and was still looking at the building in the distance in the storm, he knew that it was the ancestor's tomb. I get it now. Master, you must be thinking that the three tribes are still slave races and are still being restricted. That's why you're guessing that the ancestor isn't dead? If that's the case, then you're wrong. I know from some ancient scrolls that the ancestor extracted the blood of the three tribes and gathered it on the three stone pillars. As long as the stone pillars don't shatter, the three tribes will forever be slaves. The three stone pillars died with the ancestor. If the ancestor wasn't dead, then with just one thought, he could destroy the blood of the three tribes in an instant. There's no way he would have kept them until now. A dazed look appeared on He Feng's face, and he quickly explained hesitantly. As he explained, he was also thinking about it. He did not deny it straight away, but his words showed that he was also thinking about whether this was possible. He Feng, I can feel his presence. Su Ming closed his eyes and spoke unhurriedly. He did not lie to He Feng. As he stood there and looked at the building in the storm, he could feel a thick spiritual aura spreading out from the building in the storm. Before the path of blood in Su Ming's body was formed, he would not have been able to sense that spiritual aura. Yet now, that feeling was very clear. The small virescent sword in his body was also slightly different in this place. The spiritual aura was vast and filled with life force. It was overflowing endlessly, and it definitely did not seem like a tomb. His words made He Feng's heart tremble once again, and he fell silent. How much longer are you going to hide it from me? Su Ming opened his eyes abruptly, and within them was a cold, murderous look. He stared at He Feng, who was floating before him, and took a step forward to close in on him. He Feng trembled. He was just about to retreat when he saw a flash of virescent light. The small virescent sword suddenly flew out from the center of Su Ming's brows and circled around He Feng, preventing him from retreating. At the same time, it stopped before He Feng and pointed the tip of the sword at his forehead. Cold air spread out, and He Feng panicked. He was also intimidated by the might of the sword, and he slowly started laughing bitterly. Master, you're wise. I was too anxious and gave myself away. The ancestor is indeed not dead. He Feng whispered bitterly with a complicated look on his face. This is the greatest secret of Han Mountain Tribe. An accident happened to the ancestor when he was training in the past. He built this tomb and isolated himself here. He once said that if he came out of isolation within 100 years, then he would reach a breakthrough in his level of cultivation. If he didn't, then no one was to disturb him. As time passed by, the rumors of the ancestor's death gradually spread. The three tribes tested the waters a few times, and with the help of outsiders, they suppressed the restriction of being a slave tribe and replaced Han Mountain Tribe. But even they can't tell whether the ancestor is dead or not. Over the past hundreds of years, they have opened this place time and time again to get rid of the brand of being a slave tribe, but also to see whether the ancestor is dead. I've been investigating the people behind the three tribes, and I've seen Freezing Sky Clan Shadow. Freezing Sky Clan must have helped the rebellion in the past. And since the three tribes are controlled by the three forces of Freezing Sky Clan, it's only natural that they don't get along well with each other. This time, Lake of Colors Tribe has the relocation art in their hands, and their ambitions have been born. If they open the ancestor's isolation grounds, then it'll be fine if the ancestor is dead, but if he really isn't dead, when He Feng said these words, his face became gloomy and he paused for a moment. If Han Mountain's ancestor isn't dead, then the forces of power behind Freezing Sky Clan will definitely know about Lake of Colors Tribe's actions this time. If that's the case, then they'll appear and kill Han Mountain's ancestor, Su Ming stated unhurriedly. He Feng tacitly agreed. After a moment of hesitation, he seemed to have made his decision. He looked at Su Ming and whispered, Master, I can let you enter the ancestor's isolation grounds without breaking the seal. If you can enter before me, perhaps your rewards will surpass Lake of Colors Tribe. Su Ming swept his gaze across He Feng, but did not speak. Feng Mu's aunt, Song Lan, is a disciple of Freezing Sky Clan. If she can return to Tranquil East Tribe now, then Han Fei Zi and the forces of power behind Lake of Colors Tribe can also send their people here. No wonder Han Fei Zi asked for a delay, even though she could enter Freezing Sky Clan. This might be related to this place. A pensive look appeared in Su Ming's eyes. He looked at the plains surrounded by many valleys and the buildings in the distance. He took a step forward, but he did not move towards the plains in the distance, but to his left. Something must have changed in this place. If I go to Han Mountain's ancestors' isolation grounds too early, then I'll attract too much trouble. Besides, even if Han Mountain's ancestor isn't dead, forget about what Lake of Colors Tribe will do next. It'll be hard for me to explain myself if I enslave his tribe members. Why don't I search for Sky Flute Branch first and gather all the herbs needed to create Life Plunder, before I make my decision." Su Ming did not speak. He spread the brand and covered a circular area of 2,000 feet before he disappeared into the mountain range. Time passed by. An hour later, a white cloud suddenly appeared in the fog in the sky and charged towards them. Han Fei Zi wore a veil over her face, and her eyes were elegant. Behind her was the tall man called Yin Guang. Before the two of them was a blood shadow that led them to this place. "This person stopped here an hour ago." Han Fei Zi lifted her hand and pointed at the blood shadow. She closed her eyes, then opened them after a moment, and spoke flatly. "This person stopped here an hour ago. If you like this work, then please come to Chidian. Come and vote for me. Your support is my greatest motivation." Chapter 152. The perimeter of the place where Han Mountain's ancestor either passed away or isolated himself could be said to be hidden in the canyons under Han Mountain City. It could also be said that it was a mysterious dimension that was built by the secret tunnel leading to Han Mountain City. The place was not too big, but with Su Ming's speed, he would need at least 10 days to walk through it. The mountain range filled the place, but it did not feel too humid. It was dry, but there was also a thick spiritual aura around the place that others could not see clearly. That spiritual aura surrounded the place and tumbled about in the fog. Su Ming could feel it. As for the others, they would feel refreshed in this place, as if they could forget about their fatigue. Perhaps it was due to the presence of this spiritual aura that a lot of plants grew in the mountain range. Compared to the plants in the world outside, the plants here were much more lively and full of life. There were even some valuable herbs that a normal person would find difficult to find in the world outside. The list Tranquil tribe gave to each guest who entered this place clearly marked out the locations of some of the rare herbs in this place and drew out a map of the place. With the map around, a person would not have to worry about their direction in this place. At that moment, Su Ming held the wooden slip given to him by Tranquil tribe and memorized everything drawn on it. He charged forward cautiously along the rising and falling mountains. Su Ming spread out his brand all along the way and was constantly on guard against any signs of movement around him. He knew that something had happened here and that he could run into danger at any moment. That danger came from Lake of Colors tribe, and he did not know whether Tranquil tribe and Puqiang tribe had formed an alliance. If that was not the case, then this place would fall into chaos. The strongest among the guests in Tranquil tribe is the chief guest, Nan Tian. This person has already reached the transcendence realm. He was described the most in the wooden slip Fong Mu gave me. He was among the first batch of people to enter this place. I wonder how he is now. Tranquil tribes Nan Tian, Puqiang tribes Xian Luan, and Lake of Colors tribes Kujiu Si. These three are the strongest guests in the three tribes. Su Ming's eyes sparkled. Not a single sound came from beneath his feet. After the time it takes for an incense stick to burn, he saw a giant ravine in the middle of a mountain that looked as if it had been split in half. Tranquil spirit herb. It's here. Su Ming did not recognize nearly a seventh of the herbs in the wooden slip of Tranquil tribe that he had memorized. Besides Sky Flute Branch, the other herbs were temporarily useless to him. Yet since he was already here, Su Ming did not want to let go of this chance. He wanted to gather more herbs that were more well-rounded. This might be of help to him when he finished refining spirit plunder. As he looked at the crack in the mountain, Su Ming became even more wary. Before he got closer, he focused the brand of 2,000 feet on the area, and once he scanned the area carefully, he charged forward and turned into a long arc that shot through the ground. With a flash, he rushed into the crack in the mountain. The crack was very deep, and the end could not be seen. It was as if the crack had pierced through the ground. Su Ming touched the walls on both sides of the crack and took a deep breath. This is man-made. By the looks of it, it's as if someone split it with a blade. Just what sort of level of cultivation would be able to do this? Su Ming quietly walked down the crack, and as he walked, he calculated the distance between them. After a moment, Su Ming came to a halt. He saw a gap in the wall that was located at the deeper part of the crack. The gap was not big, and it was pitch black inside. It was as if there was once a tunnel there that was cut off by the crack. This should be the place. Su Ming moved forward cautiously. He spread out the brand and slowly arrived at the gap. He took a step inside, and the moment his body landed, a faint white mist immediately spread out from the gap. That mist appeared out of nowhere and enveloped Su Ming's body. Su Ming did not retreat. Instead, he immediately brought out the wooden slip from Tranquil East tribe. The descriptions of the locations of the various herbs were very detailed. The places where these herbs grew were collected by Tranquil East tribe over the years, and they were also protected. They did not take them away in one go, but allowed the herbs to grow in the place, and they would search for them every once in a while. If one wanted to find and enter this place, they would need wooden slips. With the wooden slips, they would be able to open the defenses of the places where Tranquil East tribe's herbs were stored. However, over the hundreds of years, it was inevitable that the other two tribes would snatch away the wooden slips, but there were also cases of other tribes snatching away the wooden slips from other tribes. As they came into contact with each other, almost 9/10 of the places where the herbs were stored were known to the three tribes. However, to prevent the herbs from going extinct due to the competition, an ingenious balance was gradually formed between the three tribes. Besides a few of the more valuable herbs that the three tribes had to fight for, most of the other places were distributed among the three tribes before the place was opened. The white mist tumbled before Su Ming, and only when it touched the wooden slip in his hand did it gradually dissipate, revealing the path leading into the place. Su Ming hesitated for a moment before he walked forward cautiously. Before long, Su Ming appeared in a flash within the gap. He took a step forward with a dark expression and charged out of the crack. Very soon, he rushed out of the crack and stood at the edge. His eyes sparkled, and after a moment of pensive silence, he lowered his head and looked at the crack beneath his feet once again. Once he made his decision, he did not leave, but rushed towards the crack once again. This time, he did not enter the tunnel through the gap. Instead, he went deeper into the crack and quickly closed in. It was dark beneath him, but he did not need to use his eyes to look at the area within the brand's area. He could feel everything clearly in his heart. Time passed by. After a while, the crack before Su Ming was still bottomless, but it was getting narrower. There were even some places where he had to lean his body sideways to get through. At that moment, Su Ming saw something within the brand's area. I knew it. Su Ming stopped and moved towards the place where he sensed the presence of the item within the brand's area. Before long, a headless corpse appeared before him. The corpse was stuck on the wall of the crack. It was headless and wore a blue robe. His body was covered in a large amount of wounds, and there was a wound on his chest that almost pierced through his body. There was a plate hanging on his waist. That plate was the symbol of the guest of Tranquil East tribe. Su Ming observed the corpse carefully for a while and searched through his body. He did not find any belongings, but based on the corpse, he could tell that the person had only died a few days ago. He lost his head and his blood. Su Ming fell silent and charged upwards. Very soon, he left the ravine and did not stop. He walked quickly into the distance. Several hours later, Su Ming walked past 5 of the places where the herbs were stored on the 5 wooden slips. His expression became increasingly darker. He stood beside a gigantic mountain rock and touched the wooden slip in his hands with a contemplative look on his face. There are herbs in all of them. This was not good news for Su Ming. This meant that the previous 2 batches of people from Tranquil East tribe did not have much chance to gather herbs. Even if they did occasionally come to search for herbs, they ended up like the person in the crack and turned into corpses. A glint appeared in Su Ming's eyes. After a moment of silence, he made his decision. He was just about to continue moving forward when the whine of a sword echoed in his head. He turned around swiftly and immediately saw a white cloud charging towards him from the sky in the distance. There were 2 people standing on the white cloud. One of them had a lithe body, and it was Han Fei Zi. Su Ming's pupils shrank. Without any hesitation, he immediately retreated and hid behind the mountain rock. He did not want to meet Han Fei Zi. In his mind, Han Fei Zi's appearance in this place was not surprising, but he still wanted to avoid her if he could. The white cloud charged forward and got closer. Its speed gradually slowed down. The blood shadow floating before Han Fei Zi suddenly let out a strong red light. The moment the blood-red shadow shone, it instantly caught Su Ming's attention. He originally thought that Han Fei Zi was just passing by, but when he saw the white cloud under her feet slowing down as if it was about to stop, and when he saw the red light from the blood-red shadow, he focused his gaze on it, and his heart immediately trembled. He saw that the blood-red shadow was actually him wearing the mask. This is bad. Su Ming immediately knew that the person's appearance was not an accident. He was using some strange berserker art to guide him, and was searching for him. It must be the man in red robes from Lake of Colors tribe. Su Ming immediately retreated. Right at the instant he retreated less than 30 feet away, the mountain rock where he had been standing immediately let out a threatening, freezing air. With cracking sounds, an endless amount of frost instantly appeared on the mountain rock, and in the blink of an eye, it turned into a block of ice. The block of ice exploded with a bang and turned into an endless amount of ice shards that charged towards Su Ming with a howl. At the same time, a chilling glint appeared in the eyes of Yin Guang, who was standing behind Han Fei Zi on the white cloud in the sky. He took a huge step forward and used the momentum from midair to descend, turning into a long arc that charged towards Su Ming. Guest of Tranquil East Tribe, how dare you kill a member of Lake of Colors Tribe? Do you dare fight against me today? Yin Guang's voice was clear and traveled through the area. As he got closer, a sharp whistling sound pierced through the air. Yin Guang held a long spear in his hands. The spear was entirely blue and shone with a strange light. It was in his hands as he charged forward, closing in on Su Ming in an instant. He has at least 850 blood veins in the later stage of the blood solidification realm. As Su Ming retreated, he saw through the young man's power through the mask. If he met this person alone, Su Ming was confident that he could win, but Han Fei Zi was by his side. Su Ming could ignore the young man, but he had fought against Han Fei Zi before. She had a lot of tricks up her sleeves. If the two of them appeared at the same time, he would not be able to fight against them. All sorts of thoughts flashed through Su Ming's head. He retreated quickly and swung his right hand before him. He clenched his fist and hurled it towards the incoming Yin Guang in the sky. At the same time, a black snake manifested in Su Ming's left hand. The snake hissed and charged towards the ice shards coming towards him. The moment Su Ming's fist landed, his body immediately trembled, and he took a few steps back. His face, which was hidden under the mask, was slightly pale. Yin Guang, who was in midair, was in an even worse state. He coughed out blood and almost lost his grip on the long blue spear in his hands. The incoming person was struck by a huge force and was sent flying hundreds of feet away. Only then did he stop moving in shock. To be continued. If you like this work, please come to Chidian. Come and vote for me. Your support is my greatest motivation. Chapter 153. Booming sounds reverberated in the air. The shattered stones exploded, but the black snake also shuddered and cracks appeared on its body. The instant it did so, Su Ming retreated once again. His gaze was cold as he spat out a single word softly. Fuck! The black snake berserker vessel he had just obtained instantly released a large amount of black mist. That black mist instantly filled the area, causing the black fog nearby to tumble about. Han Fei Zi's expression instantly changed. At the instant the black fog spread out, she immediately lifted her right hand and pointed in the direction where Yin Guang had been. Immediately, a layer of white fog appeared around Yin Guang, who had a solemn expression on his face and formed a tight defense. Once she helped Yin Guang defend himself, a golden light shone around Han Fei Zi's body. It was a strange art she had cast before Su Ming, the one that allowed her to withstand Su Ming's continuous ambushes without much damage. Almost at the same time Han Fei Zi did this, Su Ming's eyes flashed in the black fog. The mark of the virescent sword at the center of his brows charged towards the small virescent sword. His target was not Yin Guang, nor was it Han Fei Zi, but the blood-red figure before them. That blood-red figure was Su Ming's target. If he did not destroy it, then even if he ran away, there was still a possibility that he would be chased down a second time. If that was the case, then he might as well destroy it. The virescent sword charged forward, turning into a powerful pressure that charged towards the blood-red figure before Han Feizi. The might of that sword could even shock those in the Transcendence realm. Han Feizi was instantly shocked. She could not see the virescent sword, but she could feel a shocking presence coming from the fog before her. It gave her the feeling that her life was in danger. Han Feizi's expression changed again, and she retreated swiftly. Clouds and fog surrounded her entire body. As golden light shot out, an ancient mirror the size of a palm appeared in her hand. That mirror shone, and as banging sounds rang out, it manifested into 6 faces around her. They surrounded Han Feizi from the front, back, left, right, top, and bottom to protect her. The moment Han Feizi retreated, the small virescent sword closed in on the blood-red figure under the control of Su Ming's brand and sliced down on its head. With that one slash, the blood-red figure let out a shrill scream of pain as if it possessed intelligence. It was split into 2 and shattered with a loud bang. Killing intent appeared in Su Ming's eyes. Just as he was about to control the small virescent sword to charge towards Han Feizi, his heart suddenly pounded and his expression darkened. A ball of red mist spread out from the blood-red figure that was cut in half and turned into a red picture of 100 feet in midair. The picture was complicated, and the moment it appeared, it shone with a powerful red light. That red light contained a pressure that made Su Ming tremble. The moment it appeared, the black fog around him rapidly faded, and in the blink of an eye, it disappeared without a trace. At the same time, the red pattern suddenly rotated and turned into the face of a woman. This woman was incredibly beautiful. Her eyes were closed, and her eyelashes fluttered as she opened them. The moment she opened her eyes, the small virescent sword immediately started trembling as if it could not get close to it. A dark light appeared in the woman's eyes, and a soft chuckle echoed in the air. That chuckle was filled with a strange power that made all those who heard it feel their hearts tremble. It was as if an endless amount of ripples had been stirred up in their hearts, causing them to feel restless. As her chuckle echoed in the air, the woman opened her mouth and blew at the small virescent sword before her. That breath was like a fragrant breeze, and the moment it touched the small sword, the sword let out a piercing whistle. The sword shuddered and tumbled backwards towards Su Ming, quickly seeping into his body. A red flush immediately appeared on Su Ming's face. As the fragrant breeze blew into his face, a dazed look appeared in his eyes. He could vaguely see a woman with a graceful body. That woman's beauty made Su Ming's heart race against his chest. That feeling made him feel as if he only needed one word from her, and he would give up his life for her. The woman was looking at him seductively, as if she was calling him to come to her. There was a dazed look on Su Ming's face under the mask. Yet at that moment, the mysterious black stone hanging on his chest let out a chill and surged into his body, just like when he ran into the fallen berserker tribe. It made Su Ming's body freeze, and his eyes immediately regained clarity. The moment he regained his senses, Su Ming coughed out a huge mouthful of blood. His eyes became dull, and shock appeared on his face. He immediately retreated without hesitation. All of this might have seemed to have happened over a long period of time, but in truth, it only happened in an instant. A look of interest appeared on the gigantic woman's face in midair. As she watched Su Ming leaving hastily, she suddenly smiled. Fei Air, Yin Guang, I want this person alive. Go. He's heavily injured and can't do anything. Bring him to me. As the gigantic face spoke gently, it slowly disappeared. Yin Guang quickly lowered his head and voiced his obedience. Han Feizi did not speak. She only looked in the direction Su Ming ran off to with a frown on her face. She felt that there was something familiar about Su Ming, but after the short exchange of blows just now, she could not find anything off about him. Su Ming clutched his chest. That was the place where he felt the most pain. It was as if his heart had shattered, causing blood to continuously flow out of his mouth as he ran forward. The mark of the small sword at the center of his brows also became duller, and there was a faint red mark on it. "She's Yin Luan." This was not the first time Su Ming saw the woman's gigantic face. He had seen this woman when he Feng challenged the chains of Han Mountain in Han Mountain City. She's definitely not a normal, powerful berserker in the Transcendence realm. The berserker art she cast just now was enough to kill without leaving a trace. Su Ming coughed out a huge mouthful of blood. As he staggered, he brought out South Asunder from his bosom with his right hand and placed it in his mouth before charging forward once again. Behind him, Han Fei Zi and Yin Guang were chasing after him at full speed. "Master, this Yin Luan should have already reached the middle stage of the Transcendence realm. She's also one of the few tribe leaders who can suppress the Elder." Lake of Colors tribe is also clearly different from the other tribes. They don't respect the Elder, but the tribe leader. She actually came here. There was a clear hint of fear in He Feng's voice. When he heard He Feng's words, Su Ming's expression became even darker. He gritted his teeth and continued charging forward at full speed, ignoring his injuries. He ate a large amount of South Asunder on the way, allowing him to maintain his speed. However, due to his continued charging forward, he could not calm down and heal his injuries quickly. Han Fei Zi and Yin Guang, who were behind him, became increasingly shocked as they chased after him. The two of them originally thought that Su Ming would not be able to run too far away due to his injuries and would not be able to last for long. Yet 4 hours had already passed, and the guest of Tranquil East tribe was still charging forward at full speed. Su Ming's face was pale under the mask. Even if he had South Asunder constantly healing his wounds after fleeing for several hours, if it did not meditate quietly for a period of time, it would still be difficult for him to recover from his injuries. The pain in his chest had not been alleviated by much, and as he continued fleeing, the pain grew stronger, as if his chest was about to shatter. Lake of Colors tribe. Su Ming memorized the name of the tribe, but he could not stay any longer. He was worried that Yin Luan would appear at any moment. Once she did, it would be difficult for him to escape. "Master, I don't think Yin Luan will appear again." He Feng's cautious voice echoed in Su Ming's head with unconcealable nervousness. He did not want Su Ming to die. Once Su Ming died, it would be difficult for him to survive as well. Continue. Su Ming knew that he could not compare to Yi Feng in terms of experience and intelligence. When he heard Yi Feng's words, he seemed to have thought of something important. Yin Luan's power is shocking. If she could appear at any moment, then all the guests from the other two tribes who entered this place would not be able to survive. She wouldn't even need to send scouts. The reason why she sent Han Fei Zi and Yin Guang to kill you, and why we ran into the man in red robes when we walked out of the tunnel means. He Feng's head spun rapidly as he analyzed the situation. This means that Yin Luan is either under great restrictions in this place, or, because of something, she has to stay there at all times and can't go out. That's why she can only use the method she used just now to attack, Su Ming immediately said. "Master, you're wise. Besides, Yin Luan's attack through illusions isn't random either, or else if she appeared now, you wouldn't have been able to escape for such a long time." He Feng first flattered Su Ming before he voiced out his thoughts. Su Ming's eyes sparkled. He knew that he could not last much longer. He might still have quite a lot of South Asunder, but if he dragged out the pain in his chest any longer, his body would not be able to withstand it. "He Feng, I know that you still have some tricks up your sleeves. If I die now, it'll be difficult for you to survive as well. Don't hold back anymore. Hold back Han Fei Zi and Yin Guang for a while. Can you do it?" Su Ming took a deep breath and sent his thoughts to him. He Feng fell silent for a moment before he made his decision. "Master, with my current condition, I can only hold them back for the time it takes for half an incense stick to burn." "All right." Su Ming stopped moving and immediately sat down cross-legged on the ground. He brought out a few South Asunder and placed them in his mouth. He closed his eyes and immediately circulated the qi in his body. Time passed by slowly. Very soon, the white cloud behind Su Ming charged towards him. The moment it was 1,000 feet away from him, A dark light shone on Su Ming's body, and the small person that was He Feng took a step forward. His face was indistinct. He did not want Han Fei Zi to recognize him, and thus make Su Ming unhappy and suspicious. Once he appeared, He Feng lifted his right hand and hurled a punch towards the incoming white cloud in the sky. Ripples spread out rapidly between the sitting Su Ming and the incoming white cloud. He Feng rushed out, and the dark light around his body spread outwards. The dim light instantly covered a circular area of 500 feet around Su Ming's body. He Feng sat cross-legged in midair with his eyes closed. His entire body fused with the dim light and disappeared without a trace. With this method, he blocked Han Fei Zi and Yin Guang and bought more time for Su Ming. Booming sounds rose into the air. Yin Guang's face was filled with killing intent as he continuously rammed the long blue spear in his hand against the dark light, causing it to sway as if it was about to break at any moment. With just one glance, Han Fei Zi saw Su Ming within the dim light. A strange glint appeared in her eyes, and she attacked right after. White clouds surrounded the screen of dim light. As the pressure closed in, it caused the area covered by the dim light to continuously shrink. To be continued. If you like this work, please come to Qidian.com and vote for me. Your support is my greatest motivation. Chapter 154. 400 feet, 300 feet, 200 feet. When they reached 100 feet, the screen of dark light became incredibly dull. At that moment, Yin Guang let out a low growl. The long spear in his hand shone brightly with a blue light, and he pierced the screen of dark light. The screen of light immediately shattered and turned into countless shards that tumbled backwards. They gathered together in midair and turned into He Feng with an indistinct face. He Feng trembled. The moment he appeared, the long spear in Yin Guang's hand charged toward Su Ming. Han Fei Zi's eyes were cold as she stood by his side. She lifted her hand, and the clouds and mist surrounded her hand, turning into a giant hand made of mist that charged towards him. Anxiety appeared on He Feng's face. He knew that if Su Ming died, he would also die. He gritted his teeth and let out a roar. Dark light shone on his body once again. That dark light gathered in an area of 30 feet around Su Ming. When it crashed into Yin Guang's long spear, it could not withstand it and exploded once again. This time, He Feng reached his limit. His body immediately became dull, as if he was about to disappear. He laughed brokenly, and the moment he fell into despair, a strong suction force came from Su Ming's body and enveloped He Feng's body. In an instant, he was sucked in from midair and fused into Su Ming's body. At the same time, Su Ming opened his eyes. A chilling glint appeared in his eyes, and killing intent appeared within them. The moment he opened his eyes, a red light flashed under Su Ming's feet, and a red meadow spread out. When it covered an area of 100 feet, it also turned into a shield that blocked Yin Guang's long spear and Han Fei Zi's giant hand made of mist. Booming sounds reverberated in the air. Yin Guang's long spear was blocked. The moment he froze, Su Ming stood up and took a step forward. He ignored Han Fei Zi and charged towards Yin Guang. He was so quick that he closed in on him in an instant and hurled his fist forward. Yin Guang clenched his fist as well. With a low growl, his fist clashed against Su Ming's. With a bang, he fell back and coughed out blood. Killing intent appeared in Su Ming's eyes. He was just about to catch up and kill this person. The moment Han Fei Zi saw the red meadow, she was momentarily stunned. She felt as if she had seen this meadow before, but things had changed too quickly in the cave in the rainforest, causing her to not be able to see it clearly. Once she recovered from her momentary shock, she was just about to attack when Su Ming waved his right hand downwards. Immediately, the black snake reappeared and turned into a small layer of black fog. A snake's head appeared from within the black fog and charged towards Han Fei Zi to swallow her whole. All of this happened in an instant. Han Fei Zi smiled coldly and golden light shone on her body. She completely ignored the snake in the black fog and took a step forward, intending to break through the fog and stop Su Ming from attacking Yinguang. At the same time, she also wanted to capture Su Ming alive with Yinguang. He foamed. You lured her here. Why aren't you attacking now? What are you waiting for? Su Ming's eyes sparkled. He wanted to kill Yin Guang first, then deal with Han Fei Zi. He could not let the two of them work together. When he saw Han Fei Zi charging towards him despite the fog, he immediately made his decision and spoke in a hoarse voice. The instant these words left her mouth, Han Fei Zi's calm expression changed drastically. She subconsciously stopped in her tracks and lifted her head. A roar filled her mind, and all the things she had been so familiar with suddenly had an answer. Yet there was a price to be paid for that answer, and that price was Yin Guang's life. Just as Han Fei Zi was shaken by Su Ming's words and her footsteps faltered, Su Ming had already caught up to the retreating Yin Guang. The mark of the sword at the center of his brows flashed, and the small virescent sword charged towards Yin Guang. It was so quick that it closed in on him in an instant, and as Yin Guang let out a shrill scream of pain, the sword pierced through the center of his brows. With a bang, Yin Guang's body staggered a few steps back due to the residual force from the small sword and fell to the ground. His legs twitched, and he breathed his last. Su Ming panted harshly. Sweat beaded on his forehead, and blood trickled down the corner of his mouth. His face was pale, and there was a sharp pain in his chest. The series of actions just now had drained a large amount of Su Ming's stamina, especially when he killed Yin Guang. He had practically used up all the spiritual power in his blood and veins. At that moment, he stood there with a red spirit stone in his hand. The red meadow under his feet covered an area of 100 feet around him. The soles of the wings of the moon spread out from Su Ming's body and filled the area, letting out soundless roars. The small virescent sword was dull. There were some red spots on the sword that seemed to have seeped into the blade. It was a terrifying sight to behold. It floated beside Su Ming and let out a faint sword aura. Han Fei Zi stood 100 feet away from Su Ming and stared at him. There was a murderous look in her eyes. She had been searching for the person before her for a long time, but she had never found any clues. She did not expect to meet him here today. You're a guest from Tranquil East tribe. The small person in the dim light, just now must be He Feng. As for this, a glint appeared in Han Fei Zi's eyes as she stared at the small virescent sword. This should be He Feng's treasure. I didn't expect. Xian Luan and I would fight for it for such a long time, and in the end, it was you who obtained it. This is the second time we met. Your power has changed a lot. You shouldn't be a nobody. Who are you? Tranquil East tribe's guest, Mo Su. Su Ming said hoarsely. He looked at the veiled Han Fei Zi through the mask. Mo Su. Han Fei Zi looked at Su Ming and fell silent. Su Ming did not speak either. He panted harshly as he stared at Han Fei Zi. After a dozen breaths, Han Fei Zi spoke softly. You're badly injured. I have a 70% chance of killing you here. I also have a 70% chance of dying with you. Su Ming said calmly. The small virescent sword by his side let out a faint sword whistle. I believe you. A smile suddenly appeared on Han Fei Zi's face. Even if that smile was covered by the veil, it could still be vaguely seen. It was as if there was an absolute beauty contained within that smile. It's enough for me to know that you are you. I'll give you a chance. I won't reveal your identity, but if you can walk out of this place alive, you must promise me one thing. Han Fei Zi chuckled. She did not ask whether Su Ming agreed to her words. She turned around, and a white cloud appeared under her feet. She floated into the sky, and her robes fluttered in the wind as she left leisurely. Su Ming frowned. He could not quite understand the woman before him. When Han Fei Zi disappeared into the horizon, Su Ming remained silent for a moment. He cast a glance at Yin Guang's corpse and searched through his body. Once he found his belongings, he put away the long blue spear and quickly left the place. 2 hours later, Su Ming sat down cross-legged in a secluded spot in the mountain range. The pain in his chest grew stronger. As he meditated, he closed his eyes and used South Asunder to heal his wounds. He had to recover as soon as possible, or else this place would become even more dangerous. The sky above the isolation grounds of Han Mountain's ancestor was always filled with the starry sky. There would never be daylight, but this place was not dark. In the eyes of a berserker, it was as if it was daytime. Several hours later, Su Ming woke up from his meditative state and let out a shaky breath. His face was still pale under the mask, but most of his injuries had already recovered. The most serious injury on his body was his heart. If it were not for the protection from the mysterious stone, Su Ming's heart would not have been able to withstand the power of the tribe leader's berserker art and would have crumbled into a pulp. He might have recovered slightly, but he still felt sharp pain in his heart. He sat down cross-legged and pressed his right hand against the center of the mask's brows. Immediately, a green light shone from the center of his brows, and the small virescent sword manifested before Su Ming. There were 3 red spots on the small sword. They had corroded the sword's body, causing the sword's aura to become murky and reducing its power. A powerful berserker in the middle stage of the transcendence realm. Su Ming mumbled. He swiped at the red spots with his left hand. After a long while, he let out a long sigh. He could not get rid of the red spots. As he was in deep thought, Su Ming's expression suddenly changed. He could feel someone approaching him from the area within the brand's area. It's him. Su Ming narrowed his eyes. It was quiet outside the mountain range. Dong Fong Hua had a cautious look on his face as he charged forward cautiously. There were many wounds on his body, and his robes were dyed red with blood. His face was pale, and he panted harshly. As he moved forward, he kept turning his head back with lingering fear in his eyes. This damned place. How could Lake of Colors tribe come in mass? I barely escaped with my life. Luckily, I found some herbs. I should be able to obtain protection now. Dong Fong Hua laughed bitterly and moved forward quickly. As he moved forward, a calm voice suddenly traveled into his ears. Brother Dong Fong. Who is it? Dong Fong Hua's expression changed. He did not stop as he spoke, but instinctively took a few steps forward. Only then did he recognize the voice just now. It sounded somewhat familiar. Brother Amo? Dong Fong Hua was momentarily stunned. He stopped, but his expression remained cautious. He looked around before his gaze fell on a person walking towards him from afar. Su Ming walked slowly towards Dong Fong Hua and stopped 100 feet away from him. He looked at the disheveled old man. It was clear that he did not have a peaceful journey after entering this place. Dong Fong Hua also saw Su Ming's face clearly. He let out a sigh of relief, and a bitter smile appeared on his face. Brother Amo, you suddenly spoke. I was so anxious that I lost my composure. I'm sorry for making you laugh. It's fine. This place is occupied by Lake of Colors tribe. It's very dangerous. I was too rash just now. Su Ming shook his head. He could understand Dong Fong Hua's fear just now. Brother Mo, why are you alone? I remember that Brother Chun was with you just now. Su Ming looked at Dong Fong Hua and spoke calmly. Brother Chun? He's already been killed. Brother Mo, this isn't a good place to talk. Let's not stay here for too long. If you don't have anywhere else to go, why don't you come back to the gathering point with me? With your power, you shouldn't need to search for herbs like me to obtain Sir Nantion's protection. Dong Fong Hua quickly said. Gathering point? All right, I'll go with you. Su Ming thought of something and nodded his head. Under Dong Fong Hua's guidance, the two of them quickly left the place and ran into the distance. Most of the guests in Tranquil East tribe have died. Besides you and me, there are only 2 people left alive. One of them is Sir Nantion, the chief guest of Tranquil East tribe. The other person is Cho Nu. He's a hot-tempered person and is Sir Nantion's follower. He's also a guest of Tranquil East tribe. Brother Chun and I went to the gathering point, but we ran into danger there. Brother Chun died, and I was saved by Cho Nu when I was in danger. On the way, Dong Fong Hua spoke in a low voice and told Su Ming about his experiences ever since he came here. It would explode tomorrow. The double seemed to be coming soon. He had to fight for it. There was still Wu Yu's double. He would also fight for it. To be continued. If you like this work, please come Chidian. Come and vote for it. Your support is my greatest motivation. Chapter 155. Sir Nantion is injured and needs the herbs here to recover. Cho Nu is protecting him, so it's hard for him to search for the herbs. He saved me because he wants me to search for the herbs. He promised me that if I can take the risk and find enough herbs, then he will bring me to serene. He also promised that once serene recovers, he will protect me so that I can leave this place safely. Dong Fanghua spoke in a low voice. He knew that Su Ming's power was great, and he wanted to follow him in this dangerous place. That was why he told Su Ming everything he knew in detail. Su Ming nodded. Yifeng's soul had fallen into a deep slumber due to his previous exhaustion. It would be difficult for him to wake up anytime soon. Without Yifeng's analysis and judgment, Su Ming would have to rely on himself. Under Dong Fanghua's lead, the two of them traveled for 4 hours. On the way, they ran into 3 groups of people from Lake of Colors tribe. With Su Ming's branding art, they hid themselves beforehand. Once they avoided them, they arrived outside a valley. The valley was not big and was very secluded. It was quiet all around. Not a single sound could be heard. Brother Mo, this is the place. Cho Nu promised me that once I found the herbs, I would call for him here and he would appear, Dong Fanghua said in a low voice. He looked at Su Ming with a questioning look. When he saw Su Ming nodding his head, he took a few steps forward and stood outside the valley. He used his qi to send his voice into the valley. Brother Cho Nu, are you there? The valley was very quiet. When the time it takes for half an incense stick to burn passed, Su Ming suddenly noticed something. He turned around and looked behind him. The sound of footsteps attracted Dong Fanghua's attention, and he quickly looked over. A man walked towards them from the distance outside the valley. That man climbed up the mountain naked, and like an iron tower, he walked slowly towards them. When he was hundreds of feet away from Su Ming and Dong Fanghua, the man stopped and looked at Su Ming coldly. That man was ugly. His face was covered in scars. He had no nose or lips. His entire face was terrifying to look at. Only a pair of bright eyes could be seen. Dong Fanghua, how dare you bring an outsider here? The man's voice was like a tidal wave, and there was a chilling tone to it. Dong Fanghua's expression changed. He quickly opened his mouth to explain, but the man did not listen. He stared at Su Ming and pointed at him with his right hand. Who are you? Tranquil tribe's guest, Mo Su. Su Ming said slowly. I met all the guests of Tranquil tribe before. Why haven't I seen you before? The man said with a cold sneer. Brother Cho Nu, please don't be angry. This is a misunderstanding. Brother Mo is a new guest and was in the 3rd batch, just like me. However, we were separated later on. Today, when I came back, I met him and invited him to come with me. This matter was indeed this old man's rashness. I hope Brother Cho Nu doesn't mind, Dong Fanghua hurriedly said. Oh, give me your guest plate. Cho Nu's expression softened slightly, and he cast Su Ming a glance. Su Ming did not waste his breath. He brought out the plate and flung it at Cho Nu. With a whoosh, the plate charged towards Cho Nu. The man lifted his right hand and caught it. His body did not even sway as he withstood the force of Su Ming's throw contained in the plate. He lowered his head and looked at it carefully. A pensive look appeared on the man's face, but he soon threw the plate back to Su Ming. I can't confirm your identity yet. Bring me 10 sets of medicinal herbs and come back to see me. As for you, Dong Fanghua, did you bring the herbs? Cho Nu looked at Dong Fanghua. Dong Fanghua quickly brought out several types of herbs from his bosom. After a moment of hesitation, he said in a low voice, I only found this much. There are quite a lot of people from Lake of Colors tribe here. If I continued searching, I might run into them. I might not even be able to bring a single one back. I was worried about Serene. That's why I came back earlier. The man had originally glared at Su Ming when he saw that there were not enough herbs. But when he heard the old man's words, he hesitated for a moment before he nodded. I'll let you pass. Come with me. With Sir Nan Tion's protection, you can leave this place safely. As Cho Nu spoke, he turned around and walked backwards, completely ignoring Su Ming. Dong Fanghua hesitated for a moment before he looked at Su Ming. Su Ming's expression remained the same. He stood there and wrapped his fist in his palm to bow towards the man. I am a Mosu. Sir Nan Tion, would you be willing to meet me? Su Ming's voice was not loud, but it contained fine control. It echoed in the area and turned into invisible ripples that spread out. Dong Fanghua was momentarily stunned by Su Ming's actions. As for Cho Nu, he turned around swiftly and looked at Su Ming with hostility in his eyes. "Shut up. If you don't leave within 3 breaths, then today you will." Before Cho Nu could finish speaking, a gentle voice suddenly came from afar and interrupted his words. "Cho Air, don't be rude to Sir Mo Su. If there's an esteemed guest here, then of course I have to meet him. But I'm currently healing my injuries and can't welcome you personally. I hope you don't mind." "Brother Nan, you're being too polite." Su Ming smiled faintly. The fine control contained in his words just now was something that berserkers in the blood solidification realm could not sense. Only those in the transcendence realm could sense the changes within. "Sir Mo Su," Cho Nu was momentarily stunned. He understood the meaning behind those words. When he heard that Nan Tian spoke to Su Ming in a calm tone, as if they were equals, he was immediately shaken and wrapped his fist in his palm to bow deeply towards Su Ming. "I was disrespectful just now. Please punish me, Sir Mo Su." "It's fine. Lead the way," Su Ming said calmly. "Thank you, sir. This way, please." Cho Nu's face was filled with respect. It was a far cry from his previous demeanor. At that moment, he bowed and led the way for Su Ming. Dongfang Hua took a deep breath and was stunned for a moment. When he looked at Su Ming, his gaze became even more respectful. He already had a high estimation of Su Ming's power, but he did not expect that with just one sentence, Su Ming would be able to make the chief guest of Tranquil East Tribe, Nantian, respond to him with the tone of an equal. He quickly followed behind Su Ming. By the looks of it, he longed to become Su Ming's follower. Under Cho Nu's lead, the 3 of them did not travel too far. In another valley nearby, Su Ming saw a middle-aged man sitting cross-legged on the ground. The man was very handsome. He wore a white robe and had a calm expression on his face. Beside him were 6 black beast bones floating and spinning slowly. With each spin, a wisp of black mist would seep out from the man's eyes, nose, ears, and mouth, and they would be absorbed by one of the beast bones. The moment Su Ming stepped into the valley, the man opened his eyes. There was a profound look in his eyes as he looked at Su Ming. Su Ming also looked at the man. Their gazes met in midair. A surprised look appeared on the man's face. Once he looked at Su Ming carefully, he lifted his right hand, and the 6 beast bones beside him fell to the ground. "Brother Mo's power is a little strange." The man smiled faintly. His tone was gentle. With just one glance, he could tell that Su Ming had not transcended, but he still addressed him as an equal. He could feel a sense of danger from Su Ming. That sense of danger did not come from the other person harboring any ill will, but was a form of telepathy between them. The only people who could make him feel danger were those who had attained great completion in the blood solidification realm, or those who had transcended. Cho Nu took a few brisk steps forward and stood respectfully by the man's side. He lowered his head, looking like a follower. Dongfang Hua hesitated for a moment, but he did not follow. Instead, he stood behind Su Ming with his head lowered respectfully. Just like Cho Nu, Su Ming smiled faintly and sat down cross-legged. He was also sizing up the chief guest of Tranquil East Tribe, Nantian. This person's level of cultivation was similar to Xian Luan's, but Su Ming could see calmness and ease within him. It was different from Xian Luan's sullen demeanor. "Brother Nan, aren't you afraid that Lake of Colors tribe will come looking for you if you're healing here?" Su Ming asked with a smile. A smile appeared on Nantian's face. He shook his head and said, "Those who can come will definitely come. Why don't you just sit here and see when Lake of Colors tribe will come? If they want my life, then they'll have to pay the price." A cold glint appeared in Nantian's eyes. That cold glint was clearly not directed at Su Ming, but at Lake of Colors tribe. "You're not injured at all. There's no need for you to hide," Su Ming smiled and said slowly. Nantian's eyes focused, and he looked at Su Ming. After a moment, he laughed. "I can't hide it from you, Brother Mo. You're right, I'm not injured. I'm just outnumbered by many enemies. I don't want to get involved and bring trouble to myself. Brother Mo, aren't you thinking the same thing by coming here to find me? If that's the case, then this place will become even livelier in the next few days." Su Ming fell silent for a moment before he smiled. Talking to you is delightful. You're right. I purposely revealed my location and did not try to hide myself. I'm telling Lake of Colors tribe not to provoke me, and I won't bother with the matters between the three tribes. I'm also telling the other guests that they can come here to avoid trouble, but they will need to pay a price to avoid trouble. I was originally waiting for Xianlun. If he came, then this place would be much safer. But now that you're here, I'm also happy. Perhaps we'll get even more rewards this time, Nantian said slowly with a smile. He cast a glance at Dong Fanghua, who was standing respectfully behind Su Ming, and continued speaking in a flat tone. Since Dong Fanghua is Brother Mo's follower, then I won't take a share. As for the other people who come later, Nantian smiled and looked at Su Ming. He did not continue speaking. Su Ming had come into contact with many powerful berserkers in the Transcendence realm. He no longer had the same feelings he had when he first met Windstream tribe's Jingnan. When he saw Nantian looking at him after he stopped speaking, Su Ming fell into a moment of pensive silence. He lifted his right hand, and the souls of the wings of the moon flew out from his body. As they spun rapidly around him, they turned into an invisible windstorm. Cho Nu and Dong Fang Hua could not sense that windstorm clearly, but Nantian could tell that there was an indistinct power within it that was equivalent to those in the Transcendence realm. More importantly, that power was only equivalent to those in the Transcendence realm. It was not the source of the danger he had sensed previously. If that's all, Nantian frowned slightly, but the instant he did so, he felt a sharp pain in his head. That pain came without a sound, and it caused Nantian's expression to change. At the same time, he saw Su Ming's profound gaze, and he felt as if he was about to be sucked in when he looked into it. That feeling disappeared in an instant. Su Ming closed his eyes, and when he opened them once again, everything returned to normal. We'll split it equally. What do you think, Brother Amo? Nantian's spirits lifted, and he spoke with a smile. When he saw Su Ming nodding his head, the smile on his face grew wider. Brother Amo, are you interested in the relics of Han Mountain's ancestor? The first chapter will be released at midnight. To be continued. If you like this work, please come a Chidian. Come and vote for me. Your support is my greatest motivation. Chapter 156. Brother Nan, what do you mean? Su Ming sat down cross-legged and looked at Nantian. Dong Fanghua's face was filled with respect. He stood by the side with his heart pounding against his chest. He felt that he had a great chance, but that chance did not lie in him obtaining some treasure, but in Mo Su standing before him. Sir Nantian treated him as an equal, and judging by his words, he's obviously very polite. This person, Sir Mo Su, if I can follow him, then it'll be a great chance for me. Dong Fanghua took a deep breath, and a resolute look appeared in his eyes. Brother Mo, we're weak right now and can't fight against Lake of Colors tribe. But if Xianluan comes, then the three of us will have a lot of power in this place. Lake of Colors tribe has mobilized their full strength and did not reveal anything. Tranquil East and Puqiang might still be in the dark about this. This is a chance for us. This is the place where Han Mountain's ancestor passed away. If we don't get some benefits, then we'll have come here for nothing. Nantian looked at Su Ming with the ghost of a smile on his face. We can talk about this. Su Ming fell into a moment of silence. He did not agree to it immediately. Nantian smiled faintly when he heard it. He nodded and did not speak anymore. He closed his eyes, and the beast bones around him floated once again, circling around him slowly. Cho Nu also sat down cross-legged by his side to protect him. The area around them gradually quietened down. Occasionally, a faint breeze would blow through the valley. When it landed on their bodies, it would lift their hair and touch their faces, making them feel a little itchy. Su Ming sat there and lifted his head to look at the starry sky above the valley. His expression was calm as he thought about his own matters. Sir Mo Su, these are the herbs I found when I went out. Dong Fanghua, who was standing by Su Ming's side, looked at him. Su Ming gave off a sense of tranquility, but even Dong Fanghua himself could not describe it. He seemed to have seen a hint of sadness within that tranquility. Dong Fong Hua brought out almost all the herbs he had on him and placed them respectfully before Su Ming. "I can't guarantee that you'll be able to leave safely," Su Ming said flatly. "It's okay. It's better to stay here than outside." Dong Fong Hua sighed and said in a low voice. Su Ming did not speak anymore. Instead, he looked at the galaxy and quietly healed his wounds. The injury on his chest was the most serious, and he would not be able to recover within a short period of time. At the same time, he still had to absorb the spiritual aura from the world around him and have it surge into the path in his body. However, when the spiritual aura circulated through his entire body, it would always be slightly jerky at the center of his brows. He could sense that the 3 spots on the small virescent sword were the reason why the spiritual aura was circulating so slowly. Time trickled by. The 4 people in the valley sank into silence. No one spoke. As followers before Nantian and Su Ming spoke, Cho Nu and Dong Fong Hua also remained silent. About 20 hours went by, and nearly a day passed by. The sky was still the same, and nothing had changed. Su Ming continued looking at the sky. This galaxy had already been branded deeply into his heart. Brother Imo is interested in this starry sky. Nantian broke the silence. In truth, he had been observing Su Ming for a long time. To him, Su Ming's power was definitely not at the Transcendence realm, but the sense of danger he gave off was not weak. It made him pay attention to it. That was why he had been observing him quietly. "This starry sky is not the night of the land of South Morning," Su Ming said slowly. "Of course, this starry sky was created by Han Mountain's ancestor with an art. From what I know, this starry sky is directly related to Han Mountain's ancestor's mysterious origins. It's said that Han Mountain's ancestor came from another world. Perhaps this sky is the starry sky from another world." Nantian seemed to have become sentimental as he spoke in a low voice. "Another world," Su Ming mumbled. "It's said that the other world is a strange place. I've never been there before, but I've heard some legends about it. Brother Imo, if you're interested, I'll tell you about it to pass the time." Nantian smiled, and there was a sentimental look on his face. "When I first came here, I was also shocked by this starry sky. When I went back, I searched for a lot of ancient scrolls about this and slowly gained a vague understanding of it. When we talk about the other world, we have to talk about the god of the berserkers. The god of berserkers. The god of berserkers is the most powerful berserker in the berserker tribe. He is worshipped by all the berserker tribes. He is our god, our guardian. He's also a legend. It's said that the first god of berserkers' power reached a state we can't even imagine. At that time, the berserker tribe was at its most glorious. He led countless warriors from the tribes out of this starry sky. And it was also at that time that we obtained information about the other world. So there are many other worlds beyond the land of the berserker tribe. I can't imagine it, and I find it hard to believe the descriptions of this legendary era in the ancient scrolls I read. There was a hint of hesitation on Nantian's face, but there was also excitement. Brother Mo, I read in the ancient scrolls about the legendary era, the era where there were no detailed records of time, but there was a sentence that was described, all worlds worship. Su Ming's heart trembled, and he lifted his head swiftly to look at Nantian. He was not the only one. It was also clear that this was the first time Cho Nu had heard about it. Only Dong Fong Hua had his head lowered, and his expression could not be seen. All worlds worship. Su Ming mumbled. Those four simple words contained a domineering and mighty presence that shook the sky and earth. It made him feel as if a canvas had been lifted in his head, and within that canvas, he seemed to have seen the legendary era. The god of berserkers was in the sky, and an endless amount of people from the other worlds had knelt down and worshipped him. I can't believe it, and it's a pity that I wasn't born during that era. Nantian smiled wryly. You can. There will come a time when all brilliant rays of light will fade away. The first god of berserkers' strange death caused the all-worlds worship mentioned in the ancient scrolls to become a flash in the pan. However, many years later, the second god of berserkers appeared. His appearance brought forth a disaster, and it is said that the berserkers were divided into 5 parts because of him. He died, and his corpse was divided into 5 parts and buried on the 5 continents of the berserkers. His head was taken away by the people from the other worlds, and we don't know where it went. That's how the eternal creation came about. It said that some unique people can hear a faint roar in the land of the berserkers on the last day of the eternal creation. That's the shrill roar of the second god of berserkers. Perhaps the 4th god of berserkers will appear among those who can hear it. We berserkers have been waiting for the 4th god of berserkers, but this is just a rumor. I've never heard of it, and neither have the people around me. Nantion's voice was low. What about the 3rd god of berserkers? This is also something I find strange. Perhaps it's because it's difficult for me to search through more ancient scrolls with my current level of cultivation, but the 3rd god of berserkers is missing from the records I've searched for regarding the god of berserkers. It only says that he died not long after he appeared. Besides that, there are only records of the 3rd god of berserkers who came from the Great Ute dynasty in the land of the berserkers. Nantion shook his head as he spoke. When Su Ming heard this, he shuddered slightly, but he could not control that shudder. Nantion immediately noticed it and looked towards him with puzzlement. Brother Imo, what's wrong? It's nothing. Su Ming closed his eyes, hiding away the shock and a hint of fear in his eyes. So there's not just one god of berserkers, but generations after generations. But why didn't he mention anything about the fire berserkers? Just which generation is the god of berserkers who sealed the fire berserkers? Why didn't Nantion mention anything about this matter that shocked the entire berserker tribe? Perhaps it's because of the difference between the regions. That must be it. Panic appeared in Su Ming's heart, which was a rare sight. He did not know why, but the image of Tsong Lan looking at him with a hint of pity and complicated emotions in her eyes naturally echoed in his head. If you remember something one day, you can come to Freezing Sky Clan and look for me. Su Ming opened his eyes. In the short span of a few breaths, a large amount of blood capillaries had filled his eyes. He turned his head around and looked outside the valley. A barely noticeable glint appeared in Nantion's eyes. He had a feeling that there was something off about Imo Su. As he mulled over his thoughts, his expression suddenly changed, and he lifted his head to look outside the valley. Soon after, his heart trembled, and he looked at Su Ming through the corner of his eyes. What a shocking reaction. He must have been affected by some of my words just now, but even so, he still sensed that there's someone outside the valley before me. If he's calm, then I'll have to befriend this person. Nantion made his decision in his heart. At that moment, a ghastly and cold voice traveled forcefully into the valley, as if it had been torn apart. Nantion, I'm here. That voice was like thunder. When it traveled into the valley, 2 people appeared outside the valley and walked towards them. The person in front was naturally Xianluan. His face was dark, and he was frowning. Behind him was an old man. That old man was covered in blood, and a large amount of wounds could be seen on his body. His face was pale, and it was clear that he had been through a terrible battle. Brother Xian, it's my honor that you came. Nantion smiled and stood up, wrapping his fist in his palm towards Xianluan. Xianluan's face was still dark. When he walked over, his gaze fell on Su Ming, and a chilling glint appeared in his eyes. You spread out your presence so brazenly and dare to do this. Besides telling Lake of Colors tribe that you're here, you're also telling me that you're here. Are you confident that Lake of Colors tribe won't find you first and kill you? Xianluan let out a cold harumph. If I was the only one in the Transcendence realm besides Lake of Colors tribe, then I wouldn't dare do this. But since you're here, I naturally have the courage. Nantion smiled, not at all bothered by Xianluan's tone. We'll talk about your plans later. This place isn't bad, but there are too many people here. Either you take off your mask, or you get out of here. Xianluan's words were cold, and his gaze fell on Su Ming. He found this person to be an eyesore. It did not matter whether it was the first time they met in the secret tunnel or now. That feeling remained in his heart. Nantion was stunned. His gaze swept past Xianluan and Su Ming, who was sitting cross-legged on the ground. He hesitated for a moment before speaking to Xianluan in a low voice. Brother Xian, do you have a personal grudge against Brother Mo? I'm begging for monthly votes. To be continued. If you like this work, please come to Chidian. Come and vote for me. Your support is my greatest motivation. Chapter 157. No, I just don't like people who hide. A glint appeared in Xianluan's eyes, and he suddenly took a step forward toward Su Ming. The moment he walked toward Su Ming, the old man behind him immediately let out a murderous aura. He stared at Su Ming and followed him. Su Ming did not move. He sat there cross-legged, Dong Fanghua gulped by his side. His heart pounded against his chest. He instinctively wanted to retreat and avoid this, but when he saw the calmness on Su Ming's face, he remembered his previous decision and gritted his teeth in hesitation. He knew that he could no longer avoid this. If he really retreated, then he would no longer be able to become Mo Su's follower. He might even lose his right to stay in this place. I'll take the risk. I'll take the risk. Once he made his decision, Dong Fanghua clenched his fists and the blood veins in his body erupted forth. He stood beside Su Ming and did not retreat. You want to fight against me? Su Ming lifted his head and looked at Xianluan walking towards him. There was a profound look in his eyes as he spoke slowly. Xianluan's footsteps faltered and his pupils shrank. The moment he met Su Ming's gaze, a sense of danger rose within him. That sense of danger came suddenly, but it was clear. The profound look in Su Ming's eyes was like the stars in the sky. It made Xianluan's heart jump in shock. If he reacted this way, then it was even more so for the old man behind him. The moment the old man saw Su Ming's eyes, a roar immediately rang out in his head. Confusion appeared on his face, as if he had lost his mind. I may have been injured by the tribe leader of Lake of Colors tribe, but if you want to fight, then let's fight, Su Ming said slowly. Su Ming said slowly. He spoke very slowly, so slowly that he gave the others enough time to think about the meaning behind his words. Yin Luan, the tribe leader of Lake of Colors tribe? She's here as well? Nan Tian's expression immediately turned serious as he asked in a low voice. I don't know whether her real body is here or not. The people I'm fighting against are Han Fei Zi, Yin Guang, and the illusionary face formed by Yin Luan's berserker mark. Su Ming spoke calmly and opened his chest. There was a pink picture on his chest. If anyone took a closer look, they would be able to see that it was a woman's face. The moment they saw the picture, Nan Tian's pupils shrank. Xianluan's eyes also sparkled. To be able to escape from Han Fei Zi and Yin Luan's illusory faces, brother Mo, I admire you. He knew the might of Lake of Colors tribes, Yin Luan's berserker art. He knew that even if he ran into her and managed to escape, he would still be badly injured. He would not be like Mo Su and still have the strength to fight. Brother Xian, the three of us are the only ones with the power to battle in the Transcendence Realm. If we continue fighting amongst ourselves, then we might really die here. I didn't expect Yin Luan to be here. Wasn't she isolating herself to reach the later stage of the Transcendence Realm? Nan Tian's expression was rather unsightly. He felt that he had been thoughtless when he had dispersed his aura. Now that he thought about it, he broke out in a cold sweat. Xianluan fell silent and looked at Su Ming. After a long while, he let out a cold harumph. How should I address you? Mo Su. Su Ming looked at Xianluan and spoke flatly. Xianluan cast a scrutinizing glance at Su Ming before he turned around and walked to the side. He sat down cross-legged and no longer mentioned the matter of fighting. This place was a danger created by Lake of Colors tribe. Xianluan did not have full confidence that he could kill Yin Luan without being injured. If it was just because he found Yin Luan an eyesore, he would not do such a thing. Brother Xian, Brother Mo, there are still 7 days until the day this place closes. With the three of us here, unless Yin Luan personally comes, then we'll be safe from Lake of Colors tribe. But I think that Yin Luan has a grand plan for appearing in the grave of Han Mountain's ancestor. As long as we don't get involved, then she won't cause trouble for us. After all, Even if she's a powerful berserker in the middle stage of the Transcendence realm, it's impossible for her to not be injured when she faces the three of us in a desperate battle. This will be detrimental to her desire to obtain the legacy of Han Mountain's ancestor. Nan Tian fell silent for a moment before he swept his gaze past Su Ming and Xianlun. Nan Tian, what's your plan? Tell me, Xianlun said darkly. With our power, it's impossible for us to join the three tribes just for fame, common herbs, and berserker arts. I won't hide my thoughts. I joined Tranquil East Tribe for the legacy of Han Mountain's ancestor. Han Mountain's ancestor was too famous in the past. His legacy is valued so highly by the three tribes. I might not be talented, but I also want a share of it. It might be dangerous now, but this might be our last chance. Nan Tian's eyes sparkled as he spoke in a low voice. I know of a secret tunnel that leads to the plains. If Brother Xian and Brother Emo have the same plan, then we could take a gamble. We'll split the loot equally between the three of us. Secret tunnel? Yin Luan is definitely at the altar on the plains. If we go there, it'll be difficult for us to avoid her notice. We're just going to die. Xian Luan frowned. I'm confident that Yin Luan won't be able to find out about this. The secret tunnel might lead to the plains, but there are branches in it, and one of them leads to the tomb of Han Mountain's ancestor. I went in before, but I couldn't open the seal, so I had to give up. Lake of Colors Tribe's actions clearly show that they have a way to open the seal on the tomb of Han Mountain's ancestor. When the seal is broken, we can sneak in. And it's precisely because of the seal that Yin Luan won't be able to notice us unless she's reached the realm of atavism and bone sacrifice and could transcend the heavens and earth. Oh, if there's really such a secret tunnel, then you can go in yourself. Why did you tell me about this? Xian Luan's expression remained the same, but a thought appeared in his head. He instinctively cast a glance at the silent Su Ming. I won't hide it from you, Brother Xian. I might not be able to open the seal, but I can feel a pressure coming from there. There should be great danger in the tomb of Han Mountain's ancestor. With my power alone, it'll be difficult for me to reach the end. After all, treasures may be good, but my life is more important. But if the three of us work together, we can make up for each other's weaknesses. We might really be able to obtain a serendipity. I've already told you the truth. Do you want to stay here and hide and leave safely after 7 days? Or do you want to take a gamble? It's up to you, Nan Tian said slowly. The valley gradually fell silent. Xian Luan was silent. He closed his eyes as if he was thinking. Su Ming lowered his head and a glint appeared in his eyes. He might want to meet Han Mountain's ancestor, but he wanted to see his corpse and the place where he died. He did not want to see a living Han Mountain's ancestor. My Virescent sword belongs to Han Mountain's ancestor, and that meadow all belongs to him. If he's dead, then so be it, but if he's not dead, then everything I have is useless before him. This was Su Ming's greatest hesitation. It was also the main reason why Su Ming did not choose to enter the isolation grounds of Han Mountain's ancestor, even when He Feng mentioned that he knew of a way to enter. But this is also a chance. With these two people around and Lake of Colors tribe coming in en masse, even if Han Mountain's ancestor isn't dead, he won't be able to take care of himself. Should I go or not? Nan Tian is saying all this because he saw that I'm not on good terms with Xianlu. Su Ming frowned. He could not make a decision. He had wanted to enter this place previously to search for an art that could increase the speed at which he could absorb the spiritual aura of the world. At that time, he had always believed that Han Mountain's ancestor was dead. Yet once he stepped into this place and went through a series of changes, this thought was no longer as strong as before. As Su Ming fell into silence, Xian Luan's dark voice traveled into his ears. You don't have to make a decision immediately. Once you enter the tunnel you spoke of and see the seal that leads to the place where Han Mountain's ancestor died, then you can make your decision. Nan Tian nodded. Words were useless. He could understand Xian Luan's caution. After all, seeing was believing. He swept his gaze across the area and looked at Su Ming. Brother Emo, have you made up your mind? I'm injured. I might want to go, but I'm afraid I won't be of much help. Su Ming did not refuse. Instead, He spoke slowly in a roundabout manner. Qianlun did not speak, but a chilling glare appeared in his eyes once again. Nan Tian fell into a moment of pensive silence and stared at Su Ming. He had already taken a risk when he said those words just now. It would be fine if everyone went, but if even one of them did not go, then they would run the risk of being exposed. It's fine. Yin Wan's art can confuse a person's mind and injure their heart chakra. Brother Mo, your injuries are mainly in your heart chakra. As Nan Tian spoke, he lifted his right hand and pointed at a black bone floating before him. That bone charged towards Su Ming and floated unmoving before him. I'll help you heal your injuries with this bone. It can reduce the pain in your heart chakra. Su Ming looked at the beast bone before him and nodded after a long while. His expression did not change, but he became cautious in his heart and focused the branding art on the bone. When Nan Tian saw that Su Ming had agreed, he lifted his right hand and bit the tip of his finger, then tapped the center of his brows. The moment he did so, the black bone before Su Ming immediately let out a dark light. Wisps of pink aura spread out from Su Ming's chest and were absorbed by the bone. After the time it takes for half an incense stick to burn, the entire black bone turned pink. Nan Tian lowered his right hand from the center of his brows and pointed at the bone. The black bone instantly fell back and flew back to Nan Tian's side. Su Ming took a deep breath. He could clearly feel that the injury on his chest had become much better. The pain had also lessened. Brother Amo, can we go now? Nan Tian asked in a low voice and narrowed his eyes. Qianlun smiled coldly and looked at Su Ming. Why not? Su Ming said calmly without batting an eyelid. All right. A smile appeared on Nan Tian's face. He understood Qianlun and knew that Qianlun was greedy. This sort of person would be tempted as long as there were enough benefits. However, Nan Tian did not understand Su Ming. Unless it was absolutely necessary, he did not want to become enemies with Su Ming. His previous actions were only because he saw that Qianlun and Su Ming were not on good terms. A thought had appeared in his heart, and he had said those words. He believed that Su Ming would not reject this sort of forceful method. There were some words that could not be listened to. Once they were heard, they would have to join. We shouldn't waste time. We'll go now. This trip will be dangerous. If the three of us want to obtain a serendipity, we must be honest. I will lead the way. Brother Xian, Brother Amo, please protect us. Nan Tian stood up and wrapped his fist in his palm towards Qianlun and Su Ming. This place isn't far from the tunnel. With our speed, we can reach it in 4 hours. As for our 3 followers, let them follow us so that the news won't leak out, Qianlun said coldly. Dongfang Hua and the other 2 did not dare say anything else. They nodded and voiced their agreement. The 6 of them left quickly under Nan Tian's guidance. Fog surrounded the plains at the center of the mountain range in the distance. The indistinct building where Han Mountain's ancestor isolated himself and looked like a ghastly mouth that was waiting for the people to come. Here's the 2nd chapter, asking for monthly votes. To be continued. If you like this work, please come to Chidian. Come to vote for me. Your support is my greatest motivation. Chapter 158. There was no day or night in the starry sky, causing people to be unable to tell the passing of time. They could only calculate in their hearts and not let any uncontrollable changes happen because they had forgotten about time. 4 hours later, Nan Tian's group of 6 arrived quietly in one of the numerous valleys beyond the plains covered by fog in the place where Han Mountain's ancestor passed away. Perhaps some people would notice their arrival in this mysterious place, but perhaps no one would notice them. This is the place. Brother Xian, Brother Mo, I discovered this place by chance in the past. It was originally a place where herbs grew, but I cleverly cut it off. Since then, very few people have come here. Nan Tian stood outside the inconspicuous valley and spoke gently to Qianlun and Su Ming beside him. Go take a look. Qianlun's gaze fell on the valley. There was a thin layer of fog in the valley. As it surrounded the valley, it made it difficult for people to see clearly. As Qianlun spoke, the old follower beside him hesitated for a moment before he gritted his teeth and walked towards the valley. When he saw Xianluan's caution, Nan Tian smiled. His gaze fell on Chou Nu behind him. Chou Nu had been with him for many years and knew what Nan Tian was thinking. He nodded and followed Xianluan's follower into the valley. Dong Fanghua still followed behind Su Ming. At that moment, he looked at Su Ming uncertainly. When he saw that Su Ming's expression remained the same, and there was no change in his expression, he could not tell what Su Ming was thinking. However, he remembered that he had already decided to follow Su Ming, so he should do something about it. Dong Fanghua took a deep breath, and a grave expression appeared on his face. He was just about to step into the valley with the other two to investigate when the ground suddenly trembled. Muffled booming sounds reverberated from the distance, causing the ground to rise and fall. For a moment, it was as if the earth was moving and the mountains were swaying. The booming sounds reverberated in the air and did not disappear for a long time. They even caused numerous valleys to tremble and some stones to fall down. The sudden tremors made Nan Tian and Xianluan immediately cast their gazes in the same direction. That direction was in the distance. Sir Mo Su, the fourth batch of guests is here. This is the aftermath of the activation of the secret tunnel, Dong Fanghua said in a low voice. Su Ming nodded his head slightly with a calm gaze. Nan Tian's lips curled up into a smile as he said in a harmonious voice, "This is interesting." The first 3 batches of relocation from Tranquil East tribe did not include any members of their tribe. Based on the restrictions of this place, only 1 member of Tranquil East tribe can enter. This time, the one who will enter will most likely be Han Songzi. The members of Puqiang tribe came the first batch, but they're all dead now. I don't know who will be in the 4th batch, Xianluan said gloomily as he withdrew his gaze from the distance. No matter who it is, I now know why we weren't stopped along the way, and why we didn't see any guests from Lake of Colors tribe either. They must have already left the secret tunnel. Nan Tian smiled. At this moment, Chou Nu and Xianluan's followers rushed out of the valley and whispered into Nan Tian's and Xianluan's ears. Su Ming's expression remained the same. Dong Fanghua might not have been able to enter the valley with him, but Su Ming's branding art had covered a circular area of 2,000 feet. He knew everything that was going on in the valley. "Brothers, this way, please." Nan Tian cast a glance at Xianluan and Su Ming, then led the way into the valley with a smile. Xianluan and his follower followed behind him. Su Ming, who had always been silent, followed behind them. The valley was not big, but there were a dozen or so giant cracks on the walls, making it look desolate. Nan Tian took a few brisk steps forward and swept his gaze across the cracks. He took a deep breath and pushed forward with his right hand. Immediately, the black bones that surrounded him immediately scattered, and a powerful dark light shone outwards. Under that dark light, Su Ming immediately saw the 8 cracks on the wall to his right distorting like ripples on the surface of water. Gradually, the 8 cracks disappeared, and eventually, there was only 1 left. The only crack on the wall to his right was not too big. It was big enough for a person to pass through. It was dark inside, and no one knew where it led to. A glint appeared in Xianluan's eyes. The old follower behind him sighed. He took a step forward and charged towards the only crack on the wall to his right. Dong Fanghua did not have the time to go in and investigate. He was about to follow, but the moment he moved, Su Ming lifted his right arm and blocked his path. "Sir Mo Su." Dong Fanghua was stunned. When Xianluan saw this, he frowned and looked at Nan Tian. Nan Tian blinked, and a bitter smile appeared on his face. He sighed at Xianluan and said helplessly, "Brother Xian, your follower is a little too impatient." Nan Tian, "What do you mean by this?" Xianluan's expression was gloomy, and his words were even colder. Almost at the instant he finished speaking, a shrill scream rang out from the only crack on the right, and it quickly stopped. Xianluan's expression immediately changed. He glared at Nan Tian, but he was a powerful berserker in the Transcendence realm. He had his own self-control and did not fly into a rage. Instead, he said coldly, "Give me a reason not to attack. Brother Xian, I never said that I wanted to go through this crack. The crack on the right side of the valley is a trap. It's there to prevent anyone from accidentally coming here and seeing through my setup. This crack is fake. If anyone below the Transcendence realm goes inside, they will definitely die. Nantian laughed bitterly, and a hint of apology appeared on his face, but he still took a few steps towards Su Ming. The few steps he took made Xian Luan's pupils shrink in a barely noticeable manner. At that moment, he was filled with regret. He should not have shown his killing intent and his unfriendly attitude when he saw Su Ming. Xian Luan was not a normal person. He could already tell that Nantian had used his power to pressure Mo Su, creating a situation where Mo Su had no choice but to enter. Right now, he was using Mo Su to pressure Xian Luan, causing his follower to die, and Xian Luan could not blame him for anything. After all, Nantian did not say that he wanted to go through the crack. If you don't want to go through the crack, then why did you open it? Xian Luan forced down the anger in his heart and asked in a low voice, "Brother Xian, please don't be angry. It's my fault. I didn't explain things clearly beforehand. I also didn't manage to stop him when I cast my Berserker art just now. But there's a reason why I opened the crack on the right side of the valley. If I didn't open the crack, then we wouldn't have been able to enter the real tunnel." Nantian wrapped his fist in his palm and bowed towards Xian Luan. His face was filled with regret. Cold sweat broke out on Dong Fanghua's forehead. He was not young anymore and had a lot of experience. At that moment, he could also tell the complicated relationship between Su Ming and the other two. He remembered Nantian's treachery, remembered Xian Luan's ruthlessness, and remembered how Su Ming had blocked him just now. Gratitude appeared in his eyes as he looked at Su Ming. Xian Luan stared at Nantian, then at Su Ming. As a powerful berserker in the Transcendence realm, it was rare for him to feel so aggrieved. It was especially so when he could not say anything. All of this was his own doing. Veins gradually appeared on the silent Xian Luan's face. He stared at Nantian and narrowed his eyes. Nantian still had an apologetic look on his face as he bowed repeatedly. "You." Xian Luan took a step forward, but the moment he said that one word, he was cut off by Su Ming's cold voice. "There are some things you can't say. If you say them, you'll be wrong, and if you're wrong, you'll have to pay the price. Besides, Xian Luan, your follower isn't dead. After all, we haven't seen his corpse yet." Xian Luan's footsteps faltered and his expression changed. After a moment, he took a deep breath and wrapped his fist in his palm towards Nantian. "Brother Nan, I was too rash just now. Please lead the way." A smile appeared on Nantian's face, and he quickly returned the greeting. With an apologetic tone, he gave a few more explanations. He cast a glance at the calm Su Ming out of the corner of his eye, and wariness rose in his heart. This person could tell that there was something wrong and stopped his follower from following him. This shows that he's a meticulous person and doesn't want his own people to take risks. He could also use this to gain his followers' gratitude. I can do this as well. But did he really see the danger? Or was it because he was being cautious like I thought? I could put this aside for now, but what he said just now is worth thinking about. The killing intent between this person and Xian Luan doesn't seem to be fake. But he was clearly reminding Xian Luan just now. This is the second time he used me to ease up his relationship with Xian Luan, and it also created a possibility for the two of them to work together. Damn it, this completely messed up my plans for Xian Luan and my plan to win him over. This will even make Xian Luan wary of me, and he'll be able to stay out of it. Nantian did not reveal a single hint of his thoughts. He smiled and nodded at Su Ming once again before his gaze fell on the wall to his left. There were 7 cracks on the wall to his left. Nantian charged towards the third crack. Cho Nu followed behind him and quickly entered. Xian Luan looked at Su Ming and hesitated for a moment before he nodded at him and stepped into the crack. Su Ming followed behind him calmly. He did not see through Nantian's thoughts. He only felt that before he entered the tunnel, Nantian did not want to cause any conflict and ruin his plans. Yet something like this had happened. This was something worth speculating about. Su Ming could not guess what Nantian was thinking, but he could destroy it. Compared to Xian Luan, I have to be even more wary of this scheming Nantian. Su Ming did not speak and followed behind the crowd into the third crack. The crack was long and thin. No one spoke as they moved forward quietly. After a long while, a tunnel that was not too big appeared before the crowd. The tunnel went straight into the depths of the ground. It twisted and turned, and there were many signs of human activity around it. It was clear that someone had opened up this tunnel. If we didn't use a unique method to open up the crack on the right side of the valley, this tunnel wouldn't have appeared. Even if someone came here by accident, they would find themselves in a maze-like path, and it would be difficult for them to find the right place. This is the unique berserker art of Lost Cloud's tribe, Nantion explained softly. This tunnel is connected to the tomb of Han Mountain's ancestor. There's only a seal blocking the end. Once the seal is broken, we'll be able to enter the tomb of Han Mountain's ancestor. As Nantion spoke, he quickly moved forward. The tunnel was dark, but to Su Ming and the others, it was not the case. It might be a little blurry, but they could still see a lot of things clearly. What caught their attention was that the ground of the tunnel was red. It was completely different from the path connected to the crack. It was as if they were two different worlds. Su Ming looked at the red ground before him, and a barely noticeable glint appeared in his eyes. He walked forward, but the moment his foot landed on the red ground for the first time, "You're finally here. I'm here for the third chapter. I'm begging for monthly votes. To be continued. If you like this work, please come to Chidian. Come to vote for me. Your support is my greatest motivation." You're tuning in to the Warrior Lore YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.